I have a mobile phone in my Dantian. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251 Meeting. I want to see that girl now. As soon as he knew the whereabouts of his daughter, Yang could not stop missing her and wanted to see his little daughter immediately. Okay, I will take my foster father to Yunzhao now and give him an order, and the entire Yunzhao palace will naturally receive him well. Su Dong said with a smile. No, don't make a big fuss. I just want to see her. After all, I haven't seen her for more than 10 or 20 years. Don't make her unhappy. Let's wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow we will go to see her. Yang hesitated again and said, after not seeing each other for many years, the little daughter of the past has become a wife and a mother. I don't know what her personality has become. Will she recognize him when she sees him? Then we will set off tomorrow. Su Dong also nodded. Su Dong spent the whole night comprehending the ancient god map, while Yang tossed and turned and couldn't fall asleep, his mind full of his daughter. The next morning, a flying boat with a tower and painted buildings flew away from Ningen and headed straight for Yunzhao. Su Dong did not inform the court, but brought his adoptive father Yang, his young apprentice Zheng Dashu, and 2 ordinary warriors as followers. On the flying boat, the 3 of them admired the scenery below all the way. Yunzhao, Lei Ming, the Holy Lord has arrived in your Yunzhao. You must receive him well and not neglect him. On this day, Lei Ming's engine was still practicing in the mansion when he suddenly received a message from Prime Minister Li. The small town Xian'an monitors the world, so it is natural that Su Dong easily found out that he went to Yunzhao. The Holy Lord came to Yunzhao? Lei Ming's engine was shocked, but then he was overjoyed. He immediately ordered, the Holy Lord came to my Yunzhao. Is he looking for me? This is an opportunity. Notify the mansion. Let the female relatives who can show off prepare well. If anyone is favored by the Holy Lord, that is the real rise to prominence. You know, Su Dong is only 23 years old and less than 24 years old, and he has not married yet. Whoever can become a relative of the Holy Lord will be lucky. When the news of Su Dong's arrival in Yunzhao spread among the high-level officials in Yunzhao, true Lord Lei Ming took action, lighting up the decorations and preparing to welcome them immediately. However, Su Dong, Yang, and his apprentice Zheng Dashu walked in Yunzhao Wangqing in a very low-key manner. The 3 of them walked and prepared to visit their adoptive father's youngest daughter. The followers following behind them also carried exquisite gifts in their hands. I will notify you, and my sister will come out to see my adoptive father in person. But my adoptive father insisted on visiting me carefully. I really feel guilty. Su Dong had no choice. After not seeing each other for more than 10 or 20 years, if he suddenly appeared in a high-profile manner and said, I'm your father, come and see me quickly, it would be a bit too much to think about it. Su Dong also followed his adoptive father to visit. They walked all the way to the gate of Yunzhao Wangfu. This is Yunzhao Wangfu. It is indeed magnificent. Zheng Dashu looked at the mansion in front of him and sighed. Every state king who was conferred when the Jin Dynasty was founded had made great contributions. The title of king was hereditary, passed down from generation to generation. It is said that this generation of Yunzhao Wang is also a cultivator. Although he is not as bold as them as Hao Wang, he is also well known. This Yunzhao king has a good reputation in Yunzhao. Su Dong said with a smile. Although this generation of Yunzhao king is a cultivator, he also cares about people's livelihood and manages Yunzhao in an orderly manner. An attendant stepped forward. Please inform the wife of the 3rd prince that an old friend is visiting. This is a visiting card. The attendant handed over the visiting card written by Yang himself. Wait outside. The guard in front of the palace glanced at Su Dong and the others. When his eyes swept over Su Dong, he felt that he was very ordinary. He didn't look at him much and turned to report. Su Dong took the initiative to cover his aura. If it was revealed, the pressure alone would be enough to crush these guards. Donja, I'm sorry for you. Yang, his adoptive father, whispered. A dignified saint, with such a high status, actually waited outside. It's okay. Su Dong smiled. Yang was a little nervous. I don't know if that girl is still willing to see me. Yang was very uneasy, but he didn't wait for a moment. The guard came out. Please go in. Madam Sun asks you to go in. Don't run around. This is the Yuntao Palace. Anyone who breaks the taboo will be in trouble. The guard said. She is willing to see me? Yang was overjoyed. He had already stated his identity in the visiting card, but he didn't mention Sudong's anger. Since Yang Dan was willing to see him, he recognized him as his father. Tears welled up in his eyes. Are you going? The guard looked at Yang who was stunned and shouted. Go. Go. Yang said. The two followers beside Sudong looked at the guard. Such a loud shout was simply disrespectful to the Holy Lord. Only when Sudong shook his head slightly did they restrain themselves from saying more. The group walked into the Yuntao Palace. The palace was so big that the third prince only occupied a corner of it. They walked around many corridors and small doors before entering a courtyard. In the courtyard, a woman wearing embroidered robes, with a slightly haggard face, but still able to hide her gracefulness, led a little girl with pigtails and red clothes and waited nervously. In a blink of an eye, they saw the guards leading Sudong, Yang and others in. Daddy? The woman burst into tears when she saw Yang. Even though they hadn't seen each other for nearly 20 years, she recognized him at a glance. That familiar face was the father who held her in his arms and coaxed her to sleep when she was a child. When Yang heard the word daddy, he felt his heart melt. Tears streamed down his face and he hurried over. Looking at the woman in front of him, tears slid to his lips. Girl, daddy is sorry for you and made you suffer. Yang was very excited. Don't blame daddy, don't blame daddy. It was mom who abandoned daddy. Don't blame daddy. Yang Danlian said. She was only 6 years old at the time, but she would never forget the way her father went out to escort when she was a child, came back with scars all over his body, but happily brought some silver and food home. This book was recently updated on #@. Update. It was her mother who let her father down, not her father. Daddy, have you been doing well all these years? This is my daughter, Ting Ting. Come and call grandpa. Yang Dan held the little girl's hand. The cute little girl looked at Yang timidly and hugged her mother's legs tightly. She shouted, Grandpa. Good, so good. You look just like your mother when she was a child. Yang couldn't help but stretch out his palm and touch the top of the little girl's head, crying with excitement. Here, give it to you. This is a small gift from your grandfather. Yang took out a small gift box from his arms with trembling hands. The little girl was timid and didn't dare to accept it and looked at her mother. Your grandfather gave it to you. Accept it. Yang touched his daughter's forehead lovingly. Thank you, Grandpa. The little girl happily accepted the gift. Very well behaved. You are so good, just as good as your mother when she was a child. Yang said. Dad, how have you been living these years? And how did you find me? Now that you are here, stay here from now on. Let your daughter show her filial piety. Yang held Yang's palm and choked up. Yang shook his head repeatedly. Girl, dad has lived a good life these years and has been well taken care of. Come, dad will take you to meet him. Yang pulled Yang Dan towards Sudong. Meet him? Yang Dan was puzzled, but she also followed Yang towards Sudong. Sudong hurriedly stepped forward. God sister, my name is Sudong, and I'm the adopted son rescued by my adoptive father. Thanks to my adoptive father for taking care of me these years. Sudong looked at Yang Dan and said, Dad's adopted son? Yang Dan looked at the young man in front of her carefully. She had experienced half a lifetime of ups and downs, and she still had some eyes to judge people. She was afraid that her dad had met the wrong person. Could it be that dad became rich and had no children? So he met a man who could talk and accepted him as his adopted son. He looks handsome, but I don't know what kind of heart he has. Yang Dan thought to herself. Hey, who is this? You are the wife of a prince, and you are meeting a man in broad daylight. Do you have any shame? Suddenly, a harsh voice came from outside the courtyard. Sudong and Yang frowned, and Zheng Dashu showed a disgusted expression. What an ugly voice. Chapter 252 Arriving in time. Everyone in the courtyard frowned and looked back. A group of people walked in from outside the courtyard. There were many maids, and the leading ones were guards with knives. The leader was a woman with heavy makeup. The woman looked young, but her makeup was too thick, which made her look very vulgar. Seeing this woman, Yang Dan's daughter shrank her neck. She shrank behind Yang Dan. It's Jin Dynasty. The little girl's face changed. What nonsense are you talking about? Yang Dan stepped forward, with both helplessness and anger on his haggard face. Nonsense? In broad daylight, with so many people watching, you and this pretty boy secretly met in the courtyard. Am I talking nonsense? The vulgar woman's voice was sharp, glaring at Yang Dan. Yang Dan, you are also the wife of the third prince, and you do such a thing. You still have the face to stay in this palace? You. Ting Ting. Dad, let's go. Ignore her. Yang Dan pulled his daughter's hand, pulled Yang's sleeve, and was about to walk out. But the woman stretched out her hand to stop him. Oh, you're so shameless for pulling and tugging in public, and now you want to hide? Little girl, this is grandpa, don't talk nonsense. The little Ting Ting next to him said. You little bitch, do you have the right to speak here? You don't know the rules. You are like your mother, and like your son. Enough. Wang Jinling, don't go too far. Yang Dan pointed at the vulgar woman angrily. Too far? The vulgar woman was not afraid at all, and looked at Yang Dan coldly. I call this too far? I'm just cleaning up the house for my husband. How can a prince of a royal palace keep a slutty woman like you? You have a secret meeting with a man in broad daylight, and you let your daughter call you grandpa. Bah, you are so shameless. Everyone knows that you are destined to be a widower, and your family has died long ago. She sneered and said sarcastically. Yang Dan once stayed in a farmer's household, and later all of them were killed by monsters. It was later that the master of Yulo temple took her in. Yang Dan was so angry that her body was shaking. Her little daughter shrank nervously behind her mother, her eyes full of fear. Bullshit. Yang Dan took a step forward, glared at the vulgar woman in front of him, and pointed at her coldly. Are you the daughter of that marquis? What kind of daughter is taught by a bullshit marquis? How can you scold my daughter? Dad. Yang Dan's face changed slightly, and he hurriedly went up to hold Yang Dan. Oh, this old guy has a bad temper. He dares to scold my father? It's a great rebellion, and he deserves to be killed. Be careful, I will dig out your eyes, cut off your ears, and remove your tongue. I don't see if you dare to be arrogant. Wang Jinling smiled strangely and said coldly. She came here to cause trouble. This old man not only scolded her, but also scolded her father. Her father is a marquis, with a respected status. How can he allow others to insult him? This gave her the opportunity to do it. No, Dad, please leave quickly. Don't interfere with the affairs here. I will visit you another day. Yang Dan's face turned pale, and she shouted hurriedly. Don't worry, sister, they can't do anything to my godfather. Sudong stepped forward, and comforted her with a smile. His eyes coldly swept over the two knife-wielding guards who were ready to take action. The latter two were like being struck by lightning, and could not move. Oh, what a big tone. Can you guys offend my father? A frivolous and dissolute man dares to run wild in my palace. Come on, arrest these people for me. Wang Jinling raised her chin slightly, her eyes as cold as snakes and scorpions. Yes. The guard behind her was sturdy, with a crescent-shaped scimitar on his waist, and grinned. No, Wang Jinling, you just want me to leave this palace. I will leave. Yang Dan cried and shouted. Humph, you should have gotten out of the palace a long time ago. Wang Jinling snorted coldly. Come back first and spare their lives. Yang Dan was about to explode, but suddenly Sudong's voice rang in his ears. Adoptive father, the prince is here. Yang Dan paused for a moment. His son-in-law? Yes, this was his daughter's family affair, and he wanted to see how the son-in-law would handle it. What are you making a fuss about? A shout rang out, and a middle-aged man in his 30s, dressed in a gorgeous robe walked in. Many servants followed behind him. His face was full of displeasure. We are all family, do you have to fight to the death? Yang Dan, you too, you are the main wife, can't you give way to Jinling? The man scolded Yang Dan as soon as he walked in. Yang Dan's face turned pale and desperate. The little girl behind him cried in grievance. Yang Dan was also angry and glared. Haha, interesting. They say that once you enter the Marquis's family, it's like entering a deep sea. Today I have seen it. Interesting, really interesting. A laugh rang out. Everyone in the courtyard turned their heads to look. It was Sudong who was speaking, looking at the third prince with disappointment. The latter's face turned ugly instantly. This was his palace, his mansion, his family affairs. It was not the turn of other men to talk nonsense. He looked at Sudong coldly. Who are you? My husband. This is my father, and this is my father's adopted son. Yang Dan took a step forward to introduce. This book has been updated recently in .. Update. Your father? Didn't your father die a long time ago? The prince said subconsciously, and only after he finished speaking did he realize that he was rude. He glanced at Yang Dan and then looked at Sudong coldly. Since he is an adopted son, he shouldn't talk nonsense. Take him down and give him 70 strokes of the cane to teach him a lesson. 70 strokes of the cane? Yang Dan's face turned pale. Sudong smiled. I think you don't like this concubine either. You are also a wife, but you are so partial to this concubine just because she has that shitty marquis behind her? It's really cowardly for a man to act like this. Sudong sneered. You, what did you say? The third prince looked ugly and glared at Sudong. Do you believe me or not? He was about to explode. Suddenly, a streak of light flashed across the sky, and the light fell directly into the courtyard. Leeming of Shifen Pavilion, I greet the Holy Lord. It is a blessing for Yunzhao that the Holy Lord has come to Yunzhao. The light faded, revealing a tall and burly figure. He stood there, and the light around him was distorted, making it difficult to see clearly, but it was enough to make people afraid. This tall figure bowed directly to Sudong. The whole courtyard was quiet, and the many guards and servants of the third prince were dumbfounded. Even if they were dumb, they understood what the flash of light and the appearance of this figure in front of them meant. That was a top immortal cultivator. And Yang Dan was even more stunned. She stared blankly at the young man in front of her, and then looked at Lei Ming's engine, who smiled gently at her. She was stunned. Who exactly was this adopted son of her father? He was actually greeted and saluted by an immortal cultivator, and was called the Holy Lord. Master Lei Ming, long time no see. You are here just in time. If you hadn't come, I would have been dragged out by the Prince of Yunzhao and beaten with a stick for 70 times. Sudong said with a smile. Master Lei Ming's eyebrows were raised, his hair was standing on end, and a terrible aura swept over him, which immediately enveloped the Prince of Yunzhao and others. Of course, he knew that Sudong was joking when he said he came just in time, but these people dared to offend the Holy Lord. Weren't they courting death? But this shitty prince was not worth his attention. King of Yunzhao, get out of here. The Holy Lord is here. Why don't you come to greet him? Master Lei Ming's temper exploded, and he roared directly to the sky, and the roar resounded through the clouds and the entire Yunzhao palace. It was like thunder exploding. It shocked Wang Jinling and the third prince so much that they almost fainted. Holy Lord? In the Jin Dynasty, there was only one person called the Holy Lord. A faint golden mist spread over the entire Jin Dynasty. They are still building a statue of the Holy Lord in Yunzhao City recently. How could they not know who the Holy Lord was? It's over. It's over. I'm done. The third prince wailed in his heart. Chapter 253 Family Affairs. Looking at the terrifying aura of the Thunder Lord, who was surrounded by thunder, Wang Jinling almost collapsed on the ground. Dare to let the King of Yunzhao come over? The King of Yunzhao is the king of the court, a cultivator in the nascent soul stage. Shifen Pavilion. That is a force exclusively for the true Lord of Transformation. Her father, the Marquis, is not even a scum in front of the true Lord of Shifen Pavilion. Saint? He is the undisputed strongest and most powerful person in the Jin Dynasty. Was she just going to arrest the young man in front of her? This. Yang Dan and many servants in the courtyard were stunned and stared at Sudong. Saint? The young man in front of him is the saint? Swish, a middle-aged man in a gorgeous robe quickly flew over from the air and flew into the courtyard. His waist was very straight and his face was full of righteousness. King of Yunzhao Han Mingwei pays homage to the saint and the Thunder Lord. As soon as he arrived in the courtyard, the King of Yunzhao saluted Sudong and the Thunder Lord. Seeing that the King of Yunzhao was saluting, the third prince, Wang Jinling and others knelt directly on the ground. HMPH, Han Mingwei, you are so bold, you dare to rebel. Do you want to live? Thunder Master stared at the King of Yunzhou and roared. The King of Yunzhou was stunned. Let's go. Let's talk in the house. Don't embarrass yourself here. Su Dong spoke. Suddenly, everyone in the group obeyed his orders. Thunder Master and the King of Yunzhou accompanied him. Yang An, Zheng Dashu, Yang Dan and his daughter all entered the house. Only the third prince and Wang Jinling, who were trembling, knelt in the same place. No one asked them to get up, and they didn't dare to get up. Husband, what should we do? What should we do? Wang Jinling asked anxiously. Shut up. The third prince roared. Wang Jinling was choked immediately, and the third prince quickly turned his thoughts in his mind. Holy Lord? I'm really blind. I didn't recognize the Holy Lord. I saw the portrait of the Holy Lord statue a few days ago. I didn't recognize it. The third prince regretted it so much. Actually, it's not his fault. After all, a portrait is a portrait, and there is still a difference between it and the real person. It's okay if he didn't recognize her, but he just wanted to punish the saint with 70 strokes of the cane. But fortunately, it seems that the saint and the madam have a very close relationship. As long as the madam is here, I'll be fine. Yes, madam, you must hold on to the madam tightly. The eyes of the third son suddenly lit up. Although this time is a disaster, it may turn into a good thing. If he can get in touch with the saint, then he will have a real backing and become the next generation of Yunzhou king in the future. Maybe it's a done deal. Thinking of this, he looked at Wang Jinling with an extremely cold look. Su Dong was right. He didn't like Wang Jinling. It was just because the latter had a father who was a marquis and could help him. Now that the madam has a big background, what is Wang Jinling? Wang Jinling, you are so bold. It's okay that you act arrogantly at ordinary times, but now that you have offended the saint, no one can save you. The third son said coldly, and his attitude changed immediately. I didn't know he was the Holy Lord. Wang Jinling's face turned pale, thinking of how she had just threatened to dig out the eyes and ears of the Holy Lord's adoptive father. She was sweating profusely, and the makeup on her face was all smudged. The two knelt outside, and many servants also knelt. Among them, the guards who followed Wang Jinling were even more terrified. They followed Wang Jinling to do a lot of things. If Wang Jinling was unlucky, they would not have a good ending. After a while, a strong and domineering voice came from the house. Han Lichen, bring your concubine, and get in here. Prince? A group of servants trembled when they heard the voice. The third son Han Lichen's face turned pale, and he quickly responded, pulling Wang Jinling and walking into the house. In the house, Su Dong sat at the top, with Yang An next to him. Zheng Dashu stood next to Yang An, and Lei Ming Zhenjun was at the bottom. Yunzhou Wang Han Mingli was standing in the house, and Yang Dan and his daughter stood behind Yunzhou Wang. Yunzhou Wang really felt that as a daughter-in-law, the wife of his third son is really 1 in 100. Especially when he learned that his daughter-in-law is the saint's sister. The king of Yunzhou was terrified, but also a little happy. This is a good thing. Han Lichen pays homage to the saint, pays homage to the Thunder Lord, pays homage to father. Lichen didn't know the saint was here before, and offended the saint. He deserves death. He deserves death. Han Lichen knelt down on the ground as soon as he entered the door. You bastard. Han Mingli snorted coldly, wishing he could slap his son a few times. As for Wang Jinling next to him, she didn't dare to speak. She was a concubine, and her status was too humble. The prince like Han Lichen had the qualifications to ask for punishment, but she didn't even have the qualifications to speak. This room is full of well-known figures. Su Dong laughed dumbly when he heard it. Han Lichen. He looked at the third son of King Yunzhou who was kneeling below with great interest. I came here today to visit my god sister. I was in a good mood, but I didn't expect that I was almost caught by your concubine and almost beaten with 70 sticks by you. I was very terrified. Your Majesty, please forgive me. I'm blind. I'm blind. Han Lichen's body trembled and he said, HMPH, you are blind. Normally, I don't bother to take care of your family affairs, but now it is also my family affairs. So I have to talk to you. My sister married you and gave birth to your children. Is there anything wrong with you? You married this concubine who repeatedly bullied my sister and even poisoned her. If my sister didn't have some key training skills, she would have died in your house long ago. And you just turned a blind eye. You are worse than a beast. This book was recently updated in #at. Update. Su Dong looked at Jiangdan behind the king of Yangzhou. The latter looked pale and haggard because she had been poisoned. Thanks to her time of cultivation with the master of Luo Temple, who was a cultivator with extraordinary means, she survived by chance, but she never told anyone. Su Dong also found out, after reading the files, how fierce the dispute in the backyard of this prince was. What? Poisoning? The king of Yangzhou stared. Han Lichen also looked at Jiangdan in shock, and then both of them looked at Wang Jinling angrily. After all, they are all family. How could they be so cruel as to poison? Husband, I didn't. Wang Jinling was still trying to argue. Why did I frame you? This is what you and your servants did. Take a look. Su Dong casually threw a file in front of Wang Jinling. Wang Jinling was struck by lightning and stood there, while Han Lichen grabbed it and took a look. The more he looked, the more frightened he became. The king of Yangzhou next to him glanced. There was even more murderous intent in his eyes. The most vicious woman's heart is nothing more than this. The king of Yangzhou snorted coldly. Wang Jinling, you did a good thing. Han Lichen looked at the pale concubine angrily. Husband, save me, save me. If you do too much evil, you will die. No one can save you. I know you are jealous and competitive, but I didn't expect you to be so excessive. Han Lichen shook his head. Someone, come here. Arrest Wang Jinling, this vicious woman, and her evil servants. Investigate them thoroughly, and punish them according to the family rules. The king of Yangzhou shouted angrily. Immediately, 2 guards walked in from outside the door, picked up the as hen-faced Wang Jinling, and carried her directly outside. She glanced at her father-in-law, and when she heard the word family rules, she knew she would not survive. Even her father could not save her. The king of Yangzhou had a good reputation in Yangzhou, and the family rules were extremely strict. Otherwise, how could such a big palace be managed? She was just a concubine, and he could kill her at will. It would make the Holy Lord happy. If her father knew about it, he would not dare to say a word. Besides, she was just a little daughter born to the Marquis and his concubine. Chapter 254 Light and Darkness. Wang Jinling was taken away. Holy Lord, it's my fault, it's all my fault. The third son Han Lichen immediately began to kowtow and admit his fault, kneeling there. I deserve to die. Su Dong's face was cold. Holy Lord, my husband is very good to me. Your Majesty, please let him go this time. Yang Dan, who had been standing behind the king of Yangzhou, hurriedly walked to Han Lichen and knelt down, saying, no matter how much resentment there was, he was still her husband and the father of her daughter. The king of Yangzhou shook his head. He said angrily, daughter-in-law, get up and don't beg for mercy for him. This unfilial son deserves to be beaten. How could his son not know how to cherish such a good daughter-in-law? Madam, I'm sorry, it's my fault, I was blind. Han Lichen had tears in his eyes, and looked at Jiangdan. Jiangdan was so moved that she cried. Su Dong shook his head. This Han Lichen was really good at coaxing women. At this time, Han Tingting, who had been hiding behind Jiangdan, ran to Su Dong timidly, holding Su Dong's clothes with her little hand, and said sweetly, uncle, please forgive daddy. Su Dong was stunned. Uncle? Such an unfamiliar name. But a warm feeling suddenly surged in his heart. Looking at the little girl in front of him who was only 8 or 9 years old, he could no longer hold the coldness on his face. Just like ice melting, a smile suddenly appeared at the corner of his mouth. What a transparent little girl. No one taught her, she just knew to call him uncle. Okay, then uncle will do it for Tingting's sake, and will not bother with your father. Su Dong smiled. As he said that, a flash of light flashed on his fingertips, and a vermilion jade pendant appeared in his hand. The jade pendant looked ordinary, but it exuded a faint fragrance. When Lei Ming's Zhenjin and Yang Hao Wang saw it, their eyes lit up in an instant. Treasure. The jade pendant made Lei Ming's Zhenjin, the god-transforming Zhenjin, excited. Su Dong handed the jade pendant to little Tingting. Tingting, uncle prepared a small gift for you. My mother. Han Tingting blinked her dark eyes. She liked the jade pendant very much when she saw it at first sight, but she didn't dare to take it. Instead, she looked at her mother Yang Dan. Yang Dan saw that the jade pendant was extraordinary. She immediately stopped him and said, "No, Saint, such a valuable gift. Come on, Ting Ting, uncle will put it on you." Sudong smiled and hung the jade pendant directly on Han Ting Ting's neck. The king of Yangtao and the true Lord Lei Ting looked at this scene and couldn't help but envy. The true Lord Lei Ming even set his eyes on this little girl. It seems that the saint is very doting on this little girl. If he can accept this little girl as a disciple, it will also indirectly establish a relationship with the saint. Ting Ting, thank your uncle quickly. Han Lichen said. Thank you, uncle. Han Ting Ting said. Sudong glanced at Han Lichen coldly. He had no intention to kill Han Lichen, and he couldn't let Yangdan become a widow. Han Lichen, I just hope you can be nicer to my sister in the future. I'll be happy if you two live in harmony. If you continue to bully her, don't blame me for being rude. Sudong looked at Han Lichen and shouted, yes, yes, thank you, your majesty. I will treat my wife well in the future. If my wife tells me to go east, I will never go west. Han Lichen smiled. Husband. Yang Dan couldn't hold back her tears. She also bowed to Sudong. Thank you, your majesty. She had suffered a lot since she was a child, and it was not until she was rescued by the master of Yueluo temple that her luck turned. She married Han Lichen, and Han Lichen treated her well at first, but later, with the addition of Wang Jinling, there were many changes and several thrilling situations. She thought she could take good care of her daughter in her life. Fortunately, Sudong appeared. Your majesty is my father's adopted son, all because of my father. Yang Dan looked at Yang gratefully, and Yang looked at his granddaughter lovingly. Yang Dan had experienced all kinds of life, so she was naturally not a stupid person, otherwise she would not have survived the persecution of Wang Jinling. She understood that with Sudong, the saint, as her backer, not to mention her husband, even her father-in-law, the king of Yangtao, would have to coax her in the future. At this time, the king of Yangtao, who had been standing next to her, stepped forward and bowed, saying, Saint, I didn't discipline this rebellious child well. Please punish him. Let's put it one thing at a time. The king of Yangtao has a good reputation for governing a state. I have seen how the prince is. The prince doesn't have to blame himself. Sudong said with a smile. The king of Yangtao was relieved. In terms of status, he, the prince, is nothing in front of the saint. In terms of strength, the saint can easily crush him to death. Facing the saint, it would be a lie to say that there is no pressure. Even the rough-tempered Lei Ming's engine feels pressured. Saint, you are too kind. The banquet has been prepared in the palace. How about we have the banquet first? Yes, Saint, the food in our Yangtao is the best in the world. Lei Ming's engine also said. Oh, then I must taste it carefully. Sudong smiled and nodded. He was accompanying his adoptive father to visit his daughter this time. It was even more pleasant to taste the food of Yangtao casually. This book has been updated recently in Update. In the various prefectures and counties of Yangtao, many big families and big forces hurriedly sent their visiting cards to the Yangtao palace. Saint has come to Yangtao. I have let my 3 daughters enter the Yangtao palace. My 3 daughters are all stunning, proficient in key refining, and have received the teachings of masters. As long as there is a chance, they will definitely be favored by the saint. Tell your subordinates to behave themselves. The saint hates evil the most. Don't die without knowing how you died. All parties were shocked. When Sudong reached this point, he would tremble wherever he went. However, Sudong was too lazy to care about these. At this moment, there was a large crowd of people in the Yangtao palace, led by the king of Yangtao. There were many princes, grandchildren, and female relatives, among whom there were countless stunning beauties, but none of them were qualified to approach the young man at the center of the banquet. So many people, but they were quiet. The status of the Saint Venerable was higher than that of the ancestors of the Jin Dynasty. If there was a lot of noise when such an existence had a meal, wouldn't it be absurd? No sound could be made, but every stunning woman standing far away kept a beautiful smile at all times, hoping that when Sudong looked over, he would be able to see their most beautiful side. Maybe with just one look, his good days would come. Life was changed because of this. But Sudong was just discussing food with the Thunder Lord, the king of Yangtao, his adoptive father Yangan, and his apprentice Zheng Dashu, and didn't even look up at them. This disappointed many beauties. On that day, Wang Jinling was found to have committed multiple murders. She was extremely cruel and ruthless. She was domineering and arrogant before she married Han Lichen. Killing and torturing people was just a thought. Such a criminal was actually protected by Han Lichen. In addition, she attempted to murder Yang Dan several times. Once it was found out, Wang Jinling was directly executed. After the execution, this matter was only told to Yang Dan and Yang An, but not to Su Dong. Those people would be dirty to the ears of a saint. Su Dong didn't care. He was just a rich scum. There is light and darkness in this world. There are always some people who think they can be lawless and rampant. But such people are often easy to provoke the iron plate they can't afford to provoke. How did Gang Zizi die in Su Dong's hands? Now Wang Jinling is even less arrogant than Gang Zizi. If it weren't for Yang Dan, Wang Jinling would never have deserved to meet a person like Su Dong in her life, and her death would never have deserved to reach his ears. Chapter 255, Spiritual Roots of Heaven and Earth. After not seeing each other for more than 20 years, Yang An, the foster father, wanted to have a good chat with his daughter Yang Dan. Zheng Dashu rarely wanted to stay with Yang An for a few days. As for Su Dong, since she knew Su Dong's identity, her foster sister has maintained a sense of awe towards her. Although there is a relationship with Yang An, she is very cautious and careful when speaking. There is no way. Not only Yang Dan, but the entire Yunzhao Palace, from the Thunder Lord to the many descendants of the Yunzhao Palace, all respect him like a god. After all, he is the strongest in the entire Jin Dynasty and the overlord of this world. It is not something that ordinary people with ordinary minds can do to dare to talk in front of such an existence. That day was extremely lively. At the invitation of the Thunder Lord, Su Dong specially stayed in the Thunder Lord's mansion for a day. The next day, after notifying his foster father Yang An, he quietly left. The followers followed Yang An to take care of him. Flying alone in the sky. That kid has really changed his character. He actually wants to stay with his adoptive father. He is not in a hurry to go back to practice, Su Dong said to himself. He was talking about his apprentice Zheng Dashu. If it were in the past, Zheng Dashu would have felt bored after being out for a long time and would have been anxious to go back to practice. But this time was very rare. Could it be that his brain has opened up? Su Dong shook his head. He flew in the air, maintaining the speed of the world, and was about to reach Kingsao in a moment. That's Liang County. Su Dong suddenly looked at the broad county city below. With a thought in his mind, his figure turned into a stream of light and flew down. His speed was so fast that no one noticed it. He flew all the way to the old house of Liang County Magistrate Kyan. This county magistrate Kyan is thoughtful and has sent people to guard it. This place has become a forbidden area. Su Dong's holy domain wave spread, and he could easily see the many guards guarding the courtyard of the mansion. Then, without any hesitation, he quickly entered it. Whoosh! Su Dong's figure appeared in the underground river. On the underground river platform, Su Dong's figure was half suspended in the air, and his eyes were looking at the slowly flowing dark river. A beautiful crystal-like root branch was suspended on the surface of the dark river, reflecting a strange hazy light. Feng Lao. Su Dong's telepathic voice. Feng Lao Rongzi, who was studying Jiuhua Mountain Taoism in the practice room in the Immortal Cave, immediately looked up. It's rare to find me. What's the matter? Feng Lao Rongzi smiled. Look at what this is. Su Dong's mind moved, and the scene of the empty root branch appeared in the cave. Feng Lao Rongzi took a look and immediately showed a surprised expression on his face. Heaven and earth spiritual roots? I didn't expect that this small world could also grow heaven and earth spiritual roots. It looks like it's just a seedling. Wow. Feng Lao Rongzi was surprised and said, Su Dong, you are really lucky. Tell me in detail. Su Dong hurriedly asked humbly. In terms of knowledge, Feng Lao Rongzi surpassed him by far. You are not cultivating the inner world. This spiritual root of heaven and earth was born from heaven and earth, took root and sprouted, and finally grew roots and branches, blossomed and bore fruit. It is very magical, and it contains the ultimate truth of heaven and earth. It is a real spiritual object of heaven and earth. You transplant this spiritual root of heaven and earth into your inner world, absorb the nutrients of your inner world, and it will grow, blossom and bear fruit. What can this spiritual root grow in the end? Spiritual essence? Sudong was puzzled. Looking at the root branch above the dark river, the spiritual root that extended from the space was shining brightly in the darkness. Not necessarily. Every spiritual root of heaven and earth is unique. Without blossoming and bearing fruit, no one knows what will grow in the end, but it is definitely not an ordinary thing. Some can grow treasures, some will indeed produce spiritual essence, and some can even directly give birth to strong people. Let me tell you this, in the void, there are strong people who grow from the spiritual roots of heaven and earth. They have a very high innate foundation and are gifted. It is easy for them to become world gods and immortals. With a little effort, they can become god kings and immortal kings. Feng Lao Rongzi said. Grow a strong man. Sudong was shocked. There are all kinds of wonders in the void. This spiritual root of heaven and earth in the void can be regarded as a treasure that can make the realm gods care about it, but the most important thing about it is not the final fruit of flowering and fruiting, but the evolution of taking root in heaven and earth during the growth process. This evolution process contains the truth of heaven and earth. Many strong people in the void plant and cultivate it, and comprehend and watch it. My master planted 9 different void spiritual roots in the yard, and 2 of them are about to bloom and bear fruit. Feng Lao Rongzi recalled the past. 9 plants planted. Just a treasure that can make the realm gods care about it? It's easy to say, but that's based on Feng Lao Rongzi's knowledge and vision. Who is Feng Lao Rongzi? Feng Lao Yu is a top genius of the lineage, and his master is a great and powerful person in the void, with a very high vision. Sudong was already very excited. He realized something when he first saw this spiritual root. Can I use the inner world to pick this spiritual root? Sudong asked. Last time, he didn't dare to move, for fear of violently punishing the gift of heaven. Yes. Feng Lao Rongzi nodded. Sudong's mind moved, and the inner world of Dantian floated up, floating in the air, and quickly penetrated through a stream of golden light, which swept the spiritual root of heaven and earth. Swish. The spiritual root of heaven and earth was easily picked away. In Sudong's inner world, a flash of light appeared. In the sky of the inner world, above the blood-colored river, a branch suddenly appeared, shining with blood-colored light under the reflection of the blood-colored flame river. Sudong's mind appeared in the inner world, watching the branches above. All kinds of mysteries of heaven and earth were contained in it, which was extremely strange. A trace of heaven and earth energy poured into the spiritual root, and Sudong could feel every bit of growth of the spiritual root. Sudong was watching this scene, and suddenly a wave of command talisman came. Sudong's mind left the inner world, and a token appeared. When he flipped his palm, the front of the token was engraved with an ancient word Zion, which was shining. It was the token of the Immortal Alliance. The one who delivered the spiritual essences here. Sudong smiled. At that time, he received the message from the token. This book has been updated recently in @ Update. Holy Lord, everything has been negotiated. There are a total of 16 sects that want to buy the 21 magic weapons in your hand, as well as many Taoist scriptures. Of course, according to your meaning, these sects are all righteous immortal sects, and there are no monster forces. The 9 Ancestors sect is not considered a monster. The voice of the Immortal Lord came with a chuckle. He smiled and said, who doesn't know that Sudong has a very good relationship with the 9 Ancestors sect? At the beginning, Yi Zhengxiandao was furious for his beloved, which shocked many immortal cultivators. Of course not. Everything is settled. I will give you the treasure after I choose it. Sudong nodded immediately. These were all agreed before. The Immortal Alliance is just a middleman, and will earn a certain price difference. After all, it is a transaction with a hegemon like Sudong, and no one dares to deal with it one-on-one. Okay, Saint, are you in the Saint's mansion? Asked the Immortal. I'm in Ningen. Come to Ningen to find me. The communication was immediately cut off. Sudong took a look at the dark river that fell into darkness after losing his spiritual roots, then flew out of the ground and disappeared in the air. He didn't contact Kan Junshao much and kept this forbidden area to serve as a warning to the latter. After returning to the Saint's mansion in Ningen County, the Immortal arrived soon. There were only the Immortal and Sudong in the front hall of the Saint's mansion. This is the file of the 16 sects, as well as the treasure books they want to buy, and the number of spiritual essences they are willing to pay. The immortal took out the jade slip that stored the information and handed it to Sudang. Sudang took it and browsed it. Wow, this Buddhist sect is really rich and powerful. They want to buy 4 of my treasures, and they are all top-notch magic weapons. There is also a magic weapon from the Evil Wind sect. The price they offered is also the highest, 2 first-grade spiritual essences for 1 magic weapon. Sudang laughed. Usually it is a 1-for-1 exchange. And they also said, evil spirits are out there, and they are afraid that they will harm the world, so they want to suppress them with Buddhist teachings. Sudang shook his head. The immortals laughed on the side. Chapter 256 361 stars. The Buddhist sect has always done things this way. Although he was joking, Sudang was still very happy to do business with such a wealthy sect. These are the magic weapons and classics that the Buddhist sect wants. Sudang directly took out a storage bag. There were many treasures and classics that had been divided, and he threw them to the immortal venerable casually. The immortal venerable took it with a smile on his face. He didn't even check it. How could the saint venerable, who is such a person, lie to him? This little treasure is not enough for Sudang's face. Then, Sudang looked at the information of many sects and treasures to be bought in the jade slip. Of course, compared with the Buddhist sect, only the Taoist sect can be compared with the other sects. The appetite of the other sects is much smaller. This can also show that the forces of the righteous immortals are indeed completely monopolized by the 24 forces of the Buddhist sect and the Taoist sect, and all the resources are in their hands. In the end, Sudang sold 21 magic weapons and many immortal Taoist classics, and obtained a total of 30 first-grade spiritual essences. Many Taoist classics are only worth 1 first-grade spiritual essence when added together. I really don't know what these people are thinking. The Taoist scriptures are so precious, but they are actually robbing those magic weapons that are not in their hands. Feng Lao Rangxi shook his head. In the void, a Taoist scripture is much more valuable than a magic treasure. It's different. The restrictions of heaven and earth, no matter how good the Taoist scriptures are, they can only be cultivated to the top of the Mahayana, at most to the level of a half-step heavenly immortal. This is the limit. If you want to increase your own strength, there is no magic weapon that can come quickly. I also killed the Nanlin Jia along, so I have a lot of powerful magic weapons in my hands. No matter where you are, a treasure that can increase your own strength is a good treasure. As for the value of the first-grade spiritual essence, in the eyes of the big forces, is only to cultivate future generations for use. The restrictions of heaven and earth, and no elixir can be refined. In their eyes, the value of the first-grade spiritual essence is naturally low. But in Sudang's eyes, which is more important, the useless magic weapons and scriptures, or the urgently needed first-grade spiritual essence? A bunch of frogs in the well. Feng Lao Rangxi sighed. They don't want to be frogs in the well, but there is nothing they can do. Sudang shook his head and transmitted his mind. After the deal was done, the immortal venerable happily took out a portion of immortal brew to drink with Sudang. This immortal brew is unique to the Immortal Alliance. Many Jin Dynasty cultivators use spiritual power and spiritual wine to brew it. Only the immortal venerable level bosses can drink it. Others are not qualified. The immortal venerable not only drank with Sudang, but also left a pot for Sudang. The pot looked very small, but when Sudang sensed it, he found that there was something else in the pot. The area inside the pot was as big as a house, and was full of immortal brew. The business was done, and the immortal venerable still wanted to show his goodwill to Sudang. This deal would make a lot of money in the future, and he would be able to establish a friendship with Sudang, which would be beneficial to their immortal alliance. At night, in the practice room of the immortal cave in Jiuhua Mountain, Sudang was alone. Feng Larangzi had been much more casual since he had this cave, and he had always maintained his human form. At this moment, he was practicing calligraphy in the cave and recuperating. Speaking of calligraphy alone, Feng Lao Rangxi is definitely the person with the highest attainments in calligraphy that Sudang has ever seen. His calligraphy can be said to be soul-piercing and extremely shocking. In the training room, Sudang sat cross-legged. The spiritual essence is enough. Whether my mobile phone can change depends on this time. Sudang's mood gradually calmed down. When his heart was as calm as still water, his mind moved slightly, and his consciousness immersed in the inner world of Dantian. Swish. In the inner world, blood flame rivers crossed the sky, the spiritual roots of heaven and earth swayed, and a golden mobile phone surrounded by ribbons sat in the center. Sudong, dressed in a black robe, suddenly appeared in the inner world. Go. His mind moved. One by one, the first grade spiritual essences were scattered in the inner world. When the many spiritual essences appeared in the inner world from all directions, Sudong, standing on the vast land, also locked his eyes firmly on the mobile phone in the center. All efforts depend on today. How he will continue his future path depends on this effort. Under such gaze, Sudong raised his palm and clenched it slightly towards the void. Refine. A word came out of his mouth. Then the power of the entire inner world was stimulated. Under his gaze, many spiritual essences suspended in the air were refined by the power of heaven and earth in an instant, turning into streams of light. The golden mobile phone, which had been motionless all the time, finally vibrated violently at this moment, bursting out with golden light. The endless golden light was magnificent and vast, as if it had penetrated the barrier of the inner world and shot out. In an instant, it seemed that a huge golden light circle appeared around the mobile phone. The golden light circle was so huge that it covered the entire inner world, making Sudong, who was standing on the ground, look extremely small. However, the moment the huge light circle expanded to the extreme, it completely wrapped the many spiritual essences, and then it began to shrink rapidly in an instant. In just a few seconds, it was plundering the spiritual essences that turned into streams and converging them into the inside of the mobile phone. The inside of the phone was like a bottomless pit. It swallowed up all the spiritual essences in an instant. This book was recently updated on update. On the ground, Sudong looked at this scene, his lips slightly dry. He knew that his phone had a big appetite in the past, but this was the first time he saw such a savage and violent scene. This scene was indeed a bit shocking. Adding the previous 5 spiritual essences, it has swallowed 5 more now. Is it not enough? Sudong stared closely at the changes on the surface of the phone. The surface of the phone, which originally had 5 halo ribbons, was now surrounded by 10 halo ribbons. These 10 halo ribbons surrounded it, like 10 nebulae, very beautiful. More. Sudong's expression did not change, and he continued to refine the 5 first-grade spiritual essences. Suddenly, the previous violent scene was staged again. In just a moment, the halo ribbons on the surface of the phone increased to 15. When these 15 halo ribbons gathered together, Sudong's eyes suddenly changed. Boom. In the mobile phone, surrounded by 15 halo ribbons, a strange muffled sound suddenly came. The spiritual power fluctuations of 15 first-grade spiritual essences gathered together made Sudong a little frightened. Under his frightened eyes, the mobile phone screen surrounded by 15 halo ribbons suddenly lit up, and then there were light spots emerging. Those light spots emerged like stars. Each star seemed to be real and contained fluctuations that made Sudong feel palpitating. There were a total of 361 stars. Sudong looked at the 361 stars. When his eyes stayed on those stars, his eyes flashed slightly, and then his face suddenly twisted with some pain. In front of this star interface, Sudong felt how insignificant he was. In the interface of the 361 stars, even if he just peeked at one of the stars, there was a needle-like pain transmitted to the depths of Sudong's mind. Then, there seemed to be crystal-like substances in the stars. Those crystal diamonds were extremely crystal clear and beautiful, emitting dazzling light that reached deep into Sudong's mind. This light stung Sudong's soul, but his spiritual level, under the reflection of this dazzling light, quickly thrived. This is the spiritual energy. Sudong's face was distorted with pain, but his eyes were particularly bright as a lamp. At this moment, Sudong forgot about his phone and everything around him. There was only the star interface in front of him, the 361 stars, and the spiritual energy that surged in his mind. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 Breakthroughs. Spiritual energy is the most essential energy of a person. Apart from the soul and body, it is the purest, most powerful, most explosive and most illusory energy. In the void, strong men like Feng Lao also practiced spiritual level methods. Even if they died, they could still be attached to a look or an expression, which was extremely condensed and lasted forever. Like Sudong, his spiritual will had not made any progress after reaching the level of Wuzun in the past. But now, like a long drought, this spiritual level energy began to improve. Although it was extremely painful, it was also extremely exciting. But when Sudong's spiritual energy surged, Sudong's body began to reflect crystal light and heat up. As the crystal diamond energy was infused into his spiritual will, his whole body began to change inside and out. From the inside out, every cell seemed to be boiling. When spiritual energy reaches a certain level, it will cause qualitative changes. From the inside out, this is a transformation of life. The crystal diamond energy began to gather one by one, and then gradually gathered into crystal diamond streams, and the streams gathered into rivers. The rivers gathered inside and outside Sudong's soul and body, and kept gathering. Finally, they gathered in his mind. Boom. The most essential difference between the spirit and the body and soul is that the spirit will is more ethereal and unpredictable, and at this moment, it was as if the world was created. Sudong's originally empty mind suddenly became bright, and countless shining crystal diamond rivers gathered and rotated in his mind, constantly gathering and dispersing. Every time they gathered, they would be more condensed and dazzling, and every time they dispersed, they would be more magnificent and vast. Sudong only felt a sharp pain in his mind. His soul was trembling at this moment, and his body was trembling in pain, continuously gathering and dispersing. Finally, after nearly 30 repetitions, in Sudong's mind, the many dazzling crystal diamonds suddenly gathered together, but this time, they gathered and did not disperse again. Then, in Sudong's vast mind, a transparent diamond-shaped crystal diamond similar to a miniature star appeared. Different from the asteroid-like stars where the heaven and earth essence gathers in the Dantian, the diamond-shaped crystal diamond in the mind is completely transparent, but it emits a dazzling light. The entire diamond-shaped crystal diamond is actually a unified whole formed by a large number of pure crystal diamond energy bodies. The diamond-shaped crystal diamond star is constantly rotating, and at the same time it emits waves of strange fluctuations. Spirit is like a knife. Sudong's heart moved, and a ray of dazzling light suddenly flew out of the crystal diamond star, flew out of his mind, and entered the inner world. Whoosh! A dazzling knife light seemed to penetrate the dark sunlight, like the dawn, that cut through the night. In an instant, the dazzling knife light spanned the world. At this moment, Sudong felt that every spiritual will was unprecedentedly powerful, and his entire body bones, meridians, every cell, every bit of true essence, every trace of soul, were completely controlled. Absolute control. The spiritual will was unprecedentedly powerful, and even made Sudong feel that the world was different. The originally vague way of heaven became in front of him, as if it was extremely clear. The spiritual will becomes holy, breaking through the shackles of self. It all affects the way of heaven, and the absolute control makes the way of heaven extremely clear. You know, in the past, the way of heaven in this world was not open to Sudong, but at this moment, with Sudong's spiritual will soaring and breaking through, the pure spiritual will has reached an extremely terrifying and exaggerated degree. Naturally, the will of this small world is oppressed a little bit, and when it is oppressed a little bit, its restrictions are weakened. Naturally, part of the rules of heaven are revealed in front of Sudong. This is not the understanding of the immortals of heaven, but the privilege of reaching a certain level of spiritual will. The spirit is strong, and it is completely possible to change the operation of heaven. Of course, Sudong's current spiritual level is not strong enough, and he can only change a little bit of the rules of heaven in the small world. Complete control. With me as the center, the rules of heaven change. The tyrannical spiritual will radiates, oppressing the restrictions of heaven, and Sudong easily feels unprecedented comfort and freedom. The diamond-shaped crystal body in his mind emits dazzling brilliance, and the brilliance covers 3 feet around him. Within this 3-foot range, there was a blue flame flowing, a green river condensing and dispersing. The wind was sometimes strong and sometimes weak. and the gravity of the earth was sometimes heavy and sometimes light. Within 3 feet, the rules of heaven were completely controlled by the heart. This was Sudong's special ability, a privilege after his spiritual level breakthrough. This kind of spiritual will that could control the whole body at will, its purity and condensation far exceeded Sudong's imagination. At this time, the changes in his body were also coming to an end, because the breakthrough of spiritual will brought about earth-shaking changes. As in the past, the spiritual level breakthrough could only be manifested if there was a way to control the spiritual level. Without it, people would only be more temperamental. It can be said that the spiritual energy was very weak in the early stage, but it can be accumulated and then released. The later it is, the more the spiritual level breaks through. It will be extremely terrifying. The majestic true essence directly poured into the inner world from the outside and rushed in frantically from the outside to the inside. After the transformation of the inner world, it turned into extremely refined true essence, nourishing every inch of Sudong's flesh and blood meridians again, and Sudong's body also became more resilient and powerful at this moment. This kind of movement naturally alarmed Feng Lao Rongzi, who was practicing calligraphy outside. She was not a living being. Communication was okay, but it couldn't affect anything. She walked directly through the door of the practice room and saw Sudong sitting cross-legged there. At this moment, Sudong was completely plunged into darkness within 3 feet around him. Unimaginable thick true essence filled him. He sat in it, and under the flushing of the true essence, there was a faint black blood seeping out. It was the impurities contained in Sudong's body and the hidden injuries he had suffered in the battle. However, every inch of Sudong's body was strengthened at this time, and those hidden injuries were repaired. The whole body was repairing and purifying. Looking at Sudong's changes, even with Feng Lao Rong's eyes and knowledge, he was still surprised and shocked. This book has been recently updated on #@. Update. Before becoming a void god, the spiritual level has already condensed into a domain. Although it is only in a small world, it is already very remarkable. There are not many people who can do this in the void. Feng Lao Rongzi exclaimed. In the void, there are also spiritual level cultivations, and there are many strong ones among them. But how many people can reach this level of spiritual will under the void god? Even in the big world, there are many people. Genius. Sudong is really a genius in cultivation. Feng Lao Rongzi was amazed, and then she showed a trace of surprise in her eyes. Huh. The mystery of wind has broken through the 8th level? TSK. It's true. The spiritual will has too strong control over the world, and it helps a lot to comprehend the mystery of the world in the way of heaven. At this moment, in the inner world, Sudong's body shook, and blessing came to his mind. Wow. The wind space suddenly spread, and the distance reached 80 feet. Within 80 feet, there was a breeze. The mystery of wind has broken through the 8th level. Sudong clenched his palms, and a storm vortex naturally formed in the space, spinning wildly. The spiritual level has broken through, the body has broken through, and the mysteries of heaven and earth have also broken through. Feeling the various breakthroughs and improvements in his body, even with Sudong's state of mind, he couldn't help but feel overjoyed at this time. His current methods are truly at the top level in this world. Chapter 258 System Upgrade. In the world of Dantian, vast fluctuations radiate everywhere, and a vast energy continues to sweep. Although Sudong's breakthrough is extraordinary, the movement and noise compared to him is even greater on the mobile phone suspended above. Such a vast energy also makes Sudong's entire inner world tremble slightly. At this moment, Sudong's eyes are focused on the mobile phone interface. The 361 star interfaces in the mobile phone interface have disappeared without a trace, replaced by a dark, which is like a bottomless black hole, madly absorbing the energy of the spirit essence. If the star interface lasts for a while, who knows, my spiritual level may still have room for improvement. Sudong is a little regretful. He has gained so much by just watching one star. What about watching more? However, he only narrowed his eyes for a moment, and then Sudong was extremely calm, looking at the center of the mobile phone with expectation. At this moment, his physical breakthrough has been completed. Whether it is the true essence, physical level, or spiritual level in his body, it has reached the peak of his stage. If he breaks through again, he will be affected by the flaws of the world. After doing all this, the most important expectation now is to see what kind of changes his efforts will eventually bring to the phone. Wow. In Sudong's excited and expectant eyes, the pure spiritual power from the first grade spiritual essence was completely absorbed by the phone in a moment. After the absorption was completed, the entire phone shook slightly, and then a little light lit up in the darkness. This light gradually became brighter from dim, and gradually appeared on the phone interface, condensing into a string of characters. System upgrade. Sudong was stunned, looking at the string of Chinese characters, and then joy emerged in his heart. Sure enough, this change is big enough to upgrade the system directly. What will it look like after the system is upgraded? I just don't know how long it will take to upgrade this system. Sudong waited for a moment, looking at the silent phone interface, and after the string of characters of system upgrade always appeared, he collected his mind and stopped watching. This upgrade's to be a bit long, but he has plenty of time, and is not in a hurry. My phone system has been upgraded, and all the apps I downloaded can no longer be used. Even the performance mode can no longer be used. However, I have now comprehended the 8th level of the mystery of wind, and with a breakthrough in my spiritual level, I have complete control over my body. Within 3 feet, the heavens of this small world have retreated, and no one in this world can be my opponent. Sudong thought to himself. He was still a little uncomfortable without the help of his phone. Fortunately, the source of his strength was not entirely dependent on the phone in his Dantian, so he naturally did not need to worry too much. The number 2 button battle suit can still be used, and the number 1 button can also be sensed. Sudong flipped his palm, and 2 digital buttons appeared. Since these 2 buttons were separated from the phone, they had become a whole. Sudong left the inner world, and opened his eyes. The moment Sudong opened his eyes, in his eyes, it seemed that a brilliant light appeared out of thin air. The light was extremely condensed and extremely bright, making people dare not look directly at it, and they could only avoid it. But after only a flash of light, Sudong's eyes regained their calmness, appearing extremely dark and deep. Deep in his pupils, there seemed to be a long sword suspended in the air, with a sharp edge, that made people feel palpitating. At the same time, the darkness within 3 feet around Sudong also completely dissipated, becoming the same as normal space, but the strong aura emanating from the inside out still lingered around Sudong, like a storm, raging around him. I just broke through, and I still need to polish and condense it. Sudong thought to himself. He broke through many aspects one after another, and fortunately he had absolute control over his body, otherwise these many breakthroughs would indeed be beyond his control. When he looked up, Sudong saw Feng Lao Rongzi looking at him with a smile. Congratulations. She smiled and said, with joy from the bottom of her heart. Sudong's breakthrough also meant that they could go to the void as soon as possible. Sudong, I used to admire very few people, but now, you really make me admire you. Not to mention your exaggerated understanding, your spiritual attainments alone make me admire you. Feng Lao Rong ZH said with a smile. It was just a lucky breakthrough. Sudong shook his head and said modestly. However, he felt that the spiritual breakthrough was not the biggest breakthrough for him. Compared with other things, it was just a trigger. Feng Lao, this spiritual breakthrough also requires a spiritual energy attack method. My spiritual attack method is very crude, not even as good as the 8th level of the mystery of wind. Sudong laughed. He heard Feng Lao praise his spiritual attainments. His spiritual attack method is just a dream startling knife, which is a flying knife method. In comparison, the power of this method is weak now. Even if the spiritual breakthrough becomes a saint, it is not as good as the 8th level of the mystery of wind. No, it's not like that. Feng Lao Rong ZH said hurriedly. His face was extremely serious. Sudong, I must tell you. Feng Lao Rongzi said solemnly, even in the void, a strong spiritual level is extremely important. Whether it is a heavenly deo immortal or a void god, they must pay attention to the improvement of the spiritual level. Maybe you don't understand now, but the spiritual level is related to a higher level. When you reach a higher level in the future, you will find how much help the spiritual level can give you. Feng Lao Rongzi was extremely solemn and corrected Sudong's cognition. A strong spiritual level can help you better control yourself. Most importantly, it can also assist you in comprehending and practicing the mysteries of heaven and earth. A strong spiritual level is a treasure for cultivation. And between life and death, people with a strong spiritual level have a much higher chance of survival than those with a weak spiritual level. As long as there is a glimmer of hope, they can survive. Sudong was stunned. In the void, spiritual level cultivation is very important. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. This is the first time he has heard of it. Yes. The more powerful the great heaven and earth forces are, the more they value the cultivation of the spiritual level. According to the classification in the void, your current understanding of the mysteries of heaven and earth can only be considered average, because you have not become a void god. It seems extraordinary, but it is only extraordinary. But if your spiritual level is exposed, once it is exposed in the void, there will be two possibilities. Either you will be accepted as a disciple by a strong man and cultivated well, or you will be killed early. Because under the level of void god, the spiritual level has reached the level of being able to control the whole body, and it is destined to become a strong man in the future. This is important. Extraordinary will only make people look up to you. But if it is too beyond common sense, it will cause fear. So much attention? Sudong was shocked. In the void, the spiritual level is so important. Sudong, your starting point is very low, just your comprehension is extraordinary, which is nothing, but your spiritual level is so high, that I admire you. However, the spiritual level is only auxiliary. What you need to do, is to turn this auxiliary into strength. I bet, if you study the mysteries of heaven and earth again now, you will definitely feel different if you try. Feng Lao Rongzi said. Sudong glanced at Feng Lao Rongzi, then flipped his palm, took out the ancient god map, and focused his eyes on it. It stands to reason that he had just broken through the 8th level of the mystery of wind, and the new level was another shackle. But he only took a first look, and suddenly many insights and inspirations came to his mind. Sudong himself was shocked. This is so simple. How did the ancient god map, which was so complicated and profound in the past, become simple? It's not that the mystery of heaven and earth has become simple, but that your spiritual level has broken through, your vision has changed, and you can see everything clearly. Feng Lao Rongzi smiled. In the void, a high spiritual level is a treasure that is naturally enviable. There are even strong people who will control the life of a high spiritual level and cultivate it to become their right-hand man. Sudong then realized that his spiritual level breakthrough was a huge fortune. Chapter 259, A New Era. A month later. In the evening. Sudong, wearing a loose white robe, sat cross-legged in the training room, which was filled with rich spiritual energy. Within 3 feet around Sudong's body, the spiritual energy formed a strange zone. In this zone, the spiritual energy was disordered, the true essence burst, and there were often wind, fire, and water. It looked magical. Go. Sudong raised his palm, and the true essence in the 3-foot space suddenly surged up, and a very low muffled sound was faintly heard. At the same time, a terrible true essence instantly enveloped Sudong's body. Sudong's whole body was slightly shocked, and his waist and back were slightly bent, and then he straightened up. Domain. Sudong raised his right hand with a little force, and then clenched it heavily towards the void. Since his body was transformed, his body itself has possessed power far beyond that of ordinary people, and now, Sudong, whose body has been improved again, clenched it with such force, and under the blessing of the powerful true essence, the power contained in it has reached a terrifying level. In addition to the blessing of the spiritual domain. Fortunately, the space of this training room is stable. It used to be the cave of the immortal of the heavenly Dao. It can still withstand such power. Sudong felt the power contained in his palm. He controlled this power to condense into a pure blood-colored knife light. The blood-colored knife light was extremely condensed and condensed in front of him. As Sudong continued to infuse the true essence, the blood-colored knife light became brighter and brighter. When it was dazzling, Sudong stopped infusing the true essence, and then his eyes flashed slightly. He swung his palm violently, and the blood-colored knife light suddenly shot out. Boom. The blood-colored dazzling knife light slammed on the wall of the training room. The terrible power condensed at one point, and the power that was almost destructive suddenly erupted. Amid the loud noise, a striking mark was left on the wall of the training room. In just a blink of an eye, the mark was automatically repaired and disappeared. It's done. The 8th level of the secret of wind swordsmanship. Once I comprehend it, the swordsmanship will be natural. If I use the broken tooth sword to perform this sword, it will be more powerful than the stroke of genius. Sudong showed satisfaction on his face. For a month, while he was getting used to the various differences after his strength breakthrough, he was also studying and practicing the 8th level of the secret of wind swordsmanship. Finally, he succeeded today. This sword can have such power, and it also relies on the spiritual field, which is completely compressed and condensed. Even the heavenly way is excluded. This sword, let's call it heavenly punishment. Sudong smiled. The 8th level of the secret of wind swordsmanship, heavenly punishment. A month ago, Sudong only vaguely grasped the 8th level of the secret of wind, and the fluctuation of the holy domain sword to 80 feet. The swordsmanship began to take shape. Today, the real swordsmanship has been perfected, and this sword has been created. However, this sword alone has more than half a step of the heavenly way. It can be said that this sword alone has 80% of the power of the blood flame of the inner world and the power of the stroke of genius when it was fully exploded. If this knife and the blood flame of the inner world are superimposed, Sudong dare not practice in the outside world. According to the last experience, the feeling of being backfired by the power is not pleasant. But my body has also been improved, and the spiritual field controls my body. Even if the power backfires, I should be able to withstand it. Thinking of this, Sudong smiled. Until today, he has truly reached the top level of this stage. With the assistance of the spiritual field, the immortals of the heavenly way in this small world have no harm to him at all, and his attack is extremely terrifying and condensed. Unless he encounters someone who can also repel the heavenly way in this small world, he is absolutely invincible. 2 days later, in the afternoon, in the garden of the saint's mansion, Sudong's whole body was covered with a layer of strange fluctuations. His figure was suspended in the air, and there was a blood-colored flying knife flying around him. Suddenly, Sudong opened his eyes. A blood flame flew up beside him, and the world was cut apart in an instant, revealing a terrible black and purple crack. In front of this flying knife, even the former Nanlin Demon King would die instantly. Whoosh! The blood-colored flying knife turned into a blood flame and silently merged into Sudong's inner world and disappeared. The strange fluctuations around Sudong also dissipated. He fell to the ground. His tall body seemed to be a little stronger than a month ago, especially his eyes. Even if you don't look at them specifically, you can feel that they are more terrifying than the top monsters. It feels good to break through the realm, but it takes a lot of effort to stabilize this realm. It has been more than a month since it was truly stabilized. Sudong smiled. Be content. You feel that time is long because you have been practicing for a short time. You should know that the more you practice, the harder it is to practice, and when your realm is improved and your strength progresses slowly, you will not feel that time is long, but that time is not enough. Feng Lao Rang's his voice came from the immortal cave. Sudong smiled. How long has he been practicing? At most, it has been only 6 years. He is really proud of what he has achieved today. Although in Feng Lao Rang's his eyes, he is still just a little guy who has not entered the level of Void God, but in this small world, he is already the strongest. Now I can kill that Nanlin giant along with one knife. Sudong is extremely confident. Today's Sudong has undergone a complete transformation from the inside out. Now he can truly be regarded as the overlord of this world, above many strong men. Suddenly, a figure came from outside the garden. Adoptive father. Sudong smiled and walked over. Yang An usually doesn't come to this garden to find him. Why did he come here today? Donja. Today is Mid-Autumn Festival. The reunion dinner is ready. Just waiting for you. Yang An smiled. Mid-Autumn Festival? Mid-Autumn Festival again. Sudong was stunned. He couldn't help but look at the sky. It's Mid-Autumn Festival again. Counting it, I came to this world. It has been 8 years. This book was recently updated in #at. Update. Sudong has gotten used to this place and truly regards it as his home. It's been a month too. Si Niang said she would come to Ningen. Why hasn't she come yet? Sudong thought to himself. Since watching the battle between Sudong and the Demon King of Nanlin last time, Meng Si Niang suddenly began to retreat to New Gung Mountain. Even the grandmother of Yugang Mountain didn't know why her proud disciple suddenly retreated, and she couldn't get in touch with her. Since the human race had Sudang, a top overlord, sitting in charge, the monsters also restrained themselves a lot, and the evil cultivators in the overseas cultivation world dared not set foot on land. After Weichao died in the Netherworld and the two ancestors of Weichao were killed by the bounty of the Immortal Alliance, people's hearts were scattered, the top leaders fell apart, and many evil cultivators were afraid and fled, and the Jin Dynasty had already taken over the Wei Dynasty, and the Wu Kingdom was willing to submit to the Jin Dynasty. Now, the Jin Dynasty has unified the world, and there is no distinction between other countries. In this world, except for the Endless Sea, there is only one Jin Dynasty. With the small town Xian'an monitoring the world, the Jin Dynasty was in good order. The national strength gradually grew stronger. There were nearly 700 spiritual masters. There were more than 100 martial saints, but these martial saints could not be compared with Sudang. Sudang was a legend. However, there were still only 2 Mahayana masters, Li Xiangai and the Jin Dynasty Patriarch. Even so, it was still very easy to sweep away the hidden monsters. With the small town Xian'an monitoring the world and Sudang in charge, those monsters who were causing trouble had no way to survive. This was a new era. 2 months passed again. The weather was getting colder, in a deep and dark sea overseas. There used to be an isolated island in this sea, but now the island has long disappeared. Only the extremely calm and deep sea surface reflected the cold light under the sun. Wow. One day, a Mahayana monster with a black light all over its body and wings behind it flew through the sky and suddenly stopped over the sea. Chapter 260, Lord of the Netherworld. What is that? The afterglow of the setting sun shines through the sea surface to the bottom. On a reef below the sea surface, there is a striking huge emerald green spiritual crystal. The spiritual crystal is as big as a house, and it emits emerald green light all over. The spiritual light is rich. It even radiates through the sea water. Such a large spiritual crystal, and such rich spiritual energy, even this black-winged demon has never seen it before. Treasure, good treasure. The big demon with black wings and black light all over his body screamed excitedly. A Buddha dust appeared in his palm. It's so easy for me to find such a treasure. It seems that I, the black-winged great venerable, have really changed my luck. The black-winged great venerable laughed. He was originally a crow who cultivated into a demon. The laughter he made was also accompanied by a cackle, which was extremely unpleasant. At this moment, he kept laughing, and the sea surface was resounding with his unpleasant laughter. Wow. The Buddha dust in the hand of the black-winged great venerable swelled, and instantly extended into the sea water. The huge whisk immediately swept up the emerald green spiritual crystal on the reef. It's a good luck. It's a good luck. Blackwing Great Venerable was excited and happy. But when he just rolled the emerald green spirit crystal into the air. What is that? He suddenly looked below the huge spirit crystal and saw a figure suddenly revealed in the rolling sea water below. It was a naked, hairless, gray-skinned, extremely thin child. The child closed his eyes tightly and lay in the sea water. To be precise, it was lying under the huge spirit crystal he just picked up. What kind of monster is it? Blackwing Great Venerable was puzzled and alert. Be careful and alert. After all, he is a great demon of the Mahayana stage, and he can still distinguish between humans and monsters. How could the child be a human, if he is so strange? As Blackwing Great Venerable watched, the child below seemed to have sensed something, and slowly opened his eyes. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, the child below the sea opened his eyes. It was a pair of blood-red eyes emitting blood light, like the eyes of the underworld, like 2 red lights lit in the endless abyss, overlooking the black-winged great venerable in the sky. At this moment, it seemed as if the world was reversed, upside down. The sea surface became the sky, and the black-winged great venerable seemed to be at the bottom of the sea, being overlooked. What a ferocious and terrifying pair of eyes. Cold, tyrannical, and endless killing. My god. Under the gaze of these eyes, the black-winged great venerable felt suffocated and trembling all over. Even though it was a great demon of the Mahayana, it felt unprecedented terror and oppression in front of this child. It was a horror from the depths of the soul. Misunderstanding. This is a misunderstanding. This spirit crystal is returned to you. Although reluctant, the black-winged great venerable did not hesitate at this moment, and directly threw the huge spirit crystal that was swept up. After throwing it down, he turned around and ran away. He just took a piece of the spirit crystal from someone else. Just return it, it shouldn't kill him, right? The black-winged great venerable had no intention of fighting at all, and wanted to get away with it. But he just turned around. Whoosh! A terrible white beam of light suddenly burst out from the sea, and the speed was the speed of light. It went straight through the head of the black-winged great venerable. It went through the face of the black-winged great venerable that was full of horror. The light column dissipated. The head of the black-winged great venerable disappeared, and the headless body fell toward the sea. Suddenly, a black light flashed. Whoosh! A black uni in the form of a crow emerged from the headless body, and flew straight toward the sky. What kind of monster is this? I'm a great demon of the Mahayana stage. Can't even a ray of light stop me? The black-winged great venerable was extremely terrified. From the bottom of his heart, from the soul, he was terrified to the extreme. The black-winged great venerable was very good at flying. Although he only had a yuanying left, he activated the secret method to escape with all his heart, and his body was a crow among birds, so his escape speed easily reached the limit of heaven and earth. He quickly shuttled through 100 miles of sea. Escape, escape, escape. The black-winged great venerable roared, and his Mahayana stage soul perception was always paying attention to what was behind him. Didn't you chase me? You didn't chase me? The black-winged great venerable suddenly became excited. Although he lost his body and all his treasures, as long as his nascent soul was not destroyed, he still had a chance to make a comeback. But suddenly, the world in front of him darkened. Before the great Lord Blackwing could react, he rushed into the darkness. Boom. In an instant, an extremely terrifying huge mouth closed, revealing a small child, with blood-red eyes that were violent, and emitting blood light. Around his mouth, the space was slightly distorted. Unimaginable cruelty lurked in the child's body. It's so disgusting. This life is the most disgusting food I have eaten since I came to this little world, but the spiritual energy contained in it is abundant. Wow. The child's body changed, and dense and dark hideous scales suddenly grew on the snow-white body. 2 arms extended from his back again, and his head became a terrible and ugly head like a lizard. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. It was not big, just the size of an ordinary person. Each of its 4 arms was covered with raised bones, and sharp scales extended from each bone. The edges of the scales had a terrifying arc that made people feel cold. Behind it, there was a long scaly dragon tail spike that looked like it was made of steel. It seemed that with a random twitch, it could shatter the space of this world. Dark silver marks were wrapped around the dragon tail. These dark silver marks were hidden under its scales, and contained a powerful and terrifying power. They extended all the way to its terrifying eyes. The most chilling thing was that there was a terrible wound on the chest of this monster. The wound was so deep that the bone was visible, revealing a beating black heart with black blood flowing in it. It was hard to imagine how terrible the attack had been. After swallowing the black-winged demon lord in one bite, the monster sat cross-legged in the air, with dark demonic energy rising from its body. As the demonic energy rose, the heavenly Deo of this small world was easily repelled and repelled 4 feet away, forming an isolated vacuum layer. As time passed, the life essence of the black-winged great lord he had just swallowed was completely refined, and the terrible monster opened his eyes again. My strength is still a little short of full recovery, but there is no hurry. This small world has defects, and it is impossible for heavenly Deo immortals or void gods to be born. I actually came here, and became the master here. Haha, I'm the master of the netherworld. What a pleasure it was to live in the world I ruled. Countless lives fought for me, and created the best enjoyment for me. All kinds of lives were allowed to be swallowed by me. How delicious. The monster raised its head proudly, and the eyes of the ferocious lizard head were full of cruelty and violence. It was once the absolute master of a small world, known as the master of the netherworld. It enjoyed itself wantonly, killing wantonly. For a void reincarnation talisman, I gave up my homeland. It was worth it. I didn't expect that the heaven would favor me and let me find this little world again. TSK. Without the void god and the heavenly immortal, I'm the master. Conquer. Rule. Kill. I will devour as much as I can first, and then select the most delicious lives to keep in captivity and mate, devour generation after generation, select the most beautiful to serve me, and the strongest to fight each other, to build my netherworld. Rumble. The space around the Lord of the Netherworld shattered, and he roared happily to the sky. Woo. What a beautiful world. I'm here to conquer you. All the lives in this world, cheer for your great master. At this moment, the Lord of the Netherworld swung his dragon tail, and the spikes cut through the space of heaven and earth, announcing his arrival. Mid-Autumn Festival is coming soon. Is there anyone away from home like Danki? Chapter 261. The fourth test. After the Netherlord let out a strange and happy roar, he immediately turned into lightning, and flew towards an island. His speed exceeded the speed limit of heaven and earth, and the heavenly Deo within 4 feet was easily repelled. It rushed out savagely like a terrible tyrant wantonly visiting his own garden. Boom. Its instant burst speed was too fast, so fast that it formed a shock wave that hit the sea surface, and the sea surface suddenly formed a distorted trace, setting off rolling waves. It quickly rushed to the human territory, and killed the overseas immortal cultivation world. At this moment, Sudang was at the triangular entrance of the Zenshin secret realm. Sudang easily walked into this once extremely terrifying entrance, holding the Yan family token, and easily entered the dark space, looking at the Yan family palace from afar. This Yan family is not famous in the void. The inheritance of a void god is too common in the void. As for the Xinghu Great World you mentioned, I have heard of it, but it is very far from the ancient country of Fenglao. Fenglao Rangsi said in the cave. You don't have to care about this inheritance. Follow me to the fairy island, to get the void boat, and we can enter the void. She wanted to enter the void, as soon as possible. I once made a vow, that when I comprehend the 8th level of the mystery of wind, I will come here, to undergo the last test, and obtain the complete inheritance. Sudang did not dare to break his vow. After the mystery of wind broke through the 8th level, and stabilized for several days, he came. Sudang also looked at the palace. I originally thought that I would accept the Yan family inheritance after the mobile phone system was updated. But the phone has been updated for more than a month, and is still in the updating state. Who knows how long it will take to update. At the beginning, I made a vow to break through the 8th level of the mystery of wind, and come to accept the 4th test. I can't delay. Besides, if I can't pass the last test of the Yan family inheritance with my current realm, then this last test is too outrageous. Sudang was extremely confident. If he couldn't pass the 4th test, then no one in this world could pass it. Whoosh. Sudang rushed into the palace in front of him, and the familiar golden and magnificent scene came into his eyes, and the feeling was different. When he first came here, Sudang felt that the palace was full of rich spiritual energy, and the palace was also frighteningly large. But after going to Yijin Fairy Island, and seeing the world, and then owning Jiuhua Mountain Immortal Cave Mansion, he felt the rich spiritual energy of the Immortal Cave Mansion training room. In terms of the richness of spiritual energy, the Immortal Cave Mansion training room ranks first. After all, it is a refining space specially used for cultivation. The second place is Yijin Fairy Island, which has an extraordinary origin. Perhaps there is a treasure land that Sudang has not visited. In comparison, this Yan family palace can only be ranked third. The vision is high. Sudang also really felt that, even if he mastered 3 parts of power, the 7th void god who was once high and mighty in the great family of the world, in terms of background, he was still far inferior to the Saint Zemo of Jiuhua Mountain, not to mention the ancient country-style building of Hefen Tower. It's no wonder that Fenglao Rangzi didn't take the 7th void god of the Yan clan seriously. Sudang walked into the familiar palace. The statue in front of the palace stood, and a pair of red light from the pupils shone on Sudang. You're here. How long has it been? Why are you here again? The statue asked in confusion. It was just the remaining consciousness of the 7th void god of the Yan clan, and it couldn't sense the changes in Sudang at this moment. For this statue, Sudang just reached his selection of successors, and became his direct disciple, and was recorded in the book. It can easily identify Sudang as a life, but can't find Sudang's changes. Sudang stepped forward. I'm here to accept the 4th test, Sudang said directly. The 4th test? Have you broken through the 8th level of the mystery of heaven and earth? So fast? The statue's voice was startled. Immediately, a red light flashed in its eyes. In the palace, a stone pillar appeared in front of Sudang. The stone pillar was black and there were several cracks on it. Use the method you used to comprehend the 8th level of the mystery of heaven and earth to attack this stone pillar. The statue said. Go. Sudang waved his hand without hesitation. A dazzling blood red knife light condensed in an instant. The knife light was extremely sharp and dazzling. The rules of heaven would avoid it within 3 meters. A knife light containing the power of the terrifying wind mystery was emitted. Although it was just a casual stroke, the power was not even 1/3 of that of the broken tooth knife, but even this power was far beyond the ordinary 8th level mystery. After all, his spiritual level broke through, and he controlled the 3-meter world around him. Puff! The knife light fell on the black stone pillar. The surface of the black stone pillar hissed, and a deep scratch appeared. Then the knife light flashed, and cut directly through the black stone pillar. A section of the stone pillar broke directly, and fell to the ground, and then disappeared. The 8th level of the mystery of wind, mastering part of the power of heaven. It's so fast. The statue made a joyful sound. He waited for a long time and finally waited for a life. That really made him feel hopeful to appear. You are qualified to accept the 4th test. Once the 4th test begins, you will be cut off from all contact with the outside world. You must either pass the test or die. Are you ready? The statue was excited, and his tone was much better. After all, he was the first life that could accept the 4th test in a long time. It was very likely his successor. I accept the 4th test. Sudang nodded. Very good. Wow. Before the voice of the 7th void god of the Yan clan fell, a space vortex appeared in front of Sudang. In the past, such magical powers were unfathomable in Sudang's eyes, but at this moment, Sudang could easily feel that there was a strange space behind this space vortex, similar to the space of heaven and earth in his Dantian. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. Go in and accept the 4th test. I'll wait for you to come out, my successor, said the statue. Sudang looked at him, then took a step, and walked into the space vortex. He soon passed through a strange space passage, and saw a land that was a kilometer long and wide. Thunder fell from above the land, and the thunder struck the ground, and the arcs spread in all directions. After a long time, the surface of the land struck by lightning has become a material with a high concentration of electric charge, and even the stones are flashing with faint arcs. In the center of the land, there is a strange wooden house. The wooden house is very short and old. Although it is very short and smaller than a normal house, it still exudes endless pressure. It's interesting. This wooden house looks like the remains of the Lord of the Void Palace. Feng Lao Rong's he was in the immortal cave, but he was always paying attention to everything in the outside world. He was surprised at this moment. Sudang also looked at the wooden house. Is this his 4th test? Hearing Feng Lao Rong's his surprise. What Lord of the Void Palace? He asked telepathically. The Lord of the Void Palace is a title for a kind of strong man in a strange force in the void. Some of them are extremely powerful, while others have extraordinary means. In short, they all have their own special features. The Lord of the Void Palace likes to venture into the void. It is very dangerous to venture into the void. If you are not careful, you will die. Naturally, there will be many relics of the Lord of the Void Palace. In the void, there are many people who are eager to get a relic of the Lord of the Void Palace. This has become an adventure. That is not an adventure. But Sudang, the Lord of the Void Palace, is generally very poor. Don't hold too many extravagant hopes. Feng Lao said again. Sudang was silent. If it weren't for poverty, who would be willing to take the risk of venturing into the void? One after another, electric snakes burst out in this space, but they could not get within 3 feet of Sudang. This electric snake should also be considered a test. In the past, I had to use the blood-colored space to protect my body or use the number to keep battlesuit, but now, the spiritual field can resist it. Sudang said secretly. The space vortex behind him has disappeared. This place is completely isolated and unable to communicate. Sudang walked towards the wooden house. Sudang accepted the 4th test of the Yan family inheritance, while in the outside world, in the overseas immortal cultivation world, a huge uproar was brewing. Chapter 262. Live and Die Together. 9 Ancestors Sect, Moon Palace Mountain. In the forbidden Mengai cave, the walls of the cave are filled with beautiful colorful lights, which reflect the rotation, and the Teikai Bagua and the divine sword patterns emerge. Meng Si Nyang sat cross-legged in the cave, and a glazed pagoda was suspended in front of her. The pagoda exuded a faint glow, and enveloped Meng Si Nyang. Within a 10-foot circle around her, the heavenly way retreated, and was filled with various colors of light. Meng Si Nyang suddenly opened her eyes, and looked at her waist in surprise. A talisman appeared when she flipped her hand. The talisman emitted a red light and was trembling. Emergency call? What happened? Meng Si Nyang was shocked. From the time she worshipped in Moon Palace Mountain to now, she has never received an emergency call from her grandmother. Why did she call suddenly? Unless something really happened to destroy the world in the sect's life and death, it would be impossible to issue such an emergency call. Not daring to neglect it, Meng Si Nyang got up at the first time. As soon as she stretched out her hand, the floating glazed pagoda in front of her was collected into Yubei's palm. It turned into a small tower-shaped pendant and hung on her wrist. Meng Si Nyang walked out of the forbidden area and flew towards the Moon Palace Mountain Hall. Si Nyang. A woman in red flew over from afar. The woman had a charming appearance, and her whole body exuded a charming and seductive appearance. But at this moment, there was no smile on her face, and she was very solemn. Third sister. Meng Si Nyang turned her head and looked. Among the sisters, Meng Si Nyang was the one with the highest cultivation. Meng Si Nyang's status was also much higher, but they still got along very well. However, unlike Meng Si Nyang, who was a half demon and only had monster blood in her body, her third sister was a complete monster. Of course, she was a good monster who absorbed the essence of the sun and the moon and the world, and never ate people. What happened? Why did Grandma suddenly issue an emergency summons? Meng Si Nyang was full of confusion. I don't know, but it should be something very important. Not only are Yugang Mountain, but the entire 9 Ancestors Sect is urgently summoning disciples back to the sect. I heard that even the disciples of the Buddhist sect and the Taoist sect are summoning them. Sanyang said. The entire 9 Ancestors Sect? Buddhist sect and the Taoist sect? Meng Si Nyang was shocked. What happened? Why did it cause such a big stir? Does Sudang know? Meng Si Nyang thought to herself. He immediately sent a message to Sudang. No response. The message was blocked. Meng Si Nyang was stunned. Why would the message be blocked for no reason? Worried, anxious. Meng Si Nyang had a bad premonition, but she didn't dare to delay. While sending the message, she and Sanyang turned into streams of light and flew to the palace. Third sister, fourth sister. From a distance, a girl with an increasingly charming appearance flew over, with a pair of watery eyes, and shouted to Meng Si Nyang and Sanyang. Sixth sister, you usually stay with Grandma. What happened? Sanyang asked hurriedly. I don't know. Grandma didn't tell me, but she wouldn't let me leave Yugang Mountain. If I left, she would break my legs. Qin Liu Niang stuck out her tongue. Not allowed to leave Yugang Mountain? Obviously something big happened in the outside world. The 3 sisters quickly rushed to the largest palace in the center of Yugang Mountain. They flew all the way and met many sisters on the way. All of them looked solemn, but none of them knew what happened. They all came here after receiving an emergency summons. The huge palace of Yugang Mountain and the palace were now filled with disciples. These disciples were strong and weak. The strong ones, like Meng Si Nyang, were now second only to the Grandma of Yugang Mountain, and the weak ones had just entered the Giant stage. On weekdays, these disciples were not qualified to see the Grandma of Yugang Mountain. Taoism was passed down from generation to generation. Si Nyang. Fourth princess. The arrival of Meng Si Nyang immediately attracted the attention of many disciples. Now Meng Si Nyang is a celebrity in Yugang Mountain, and even the Grandma of Yugang Mountain is polite to Meng Si Nyang. In terms of cultivation, Meng Si Nyang entered Mengai Cave for the 3rd time, and became a god. She is well known for her talent. In terms of fame, everyone knows that Meng Si Nyang is very close to the overlord of the Jin Dynasty, and they have an extraordinary relationship. No matter which point, Meng Si Nyang's status in Yugang Mountain is very high. Many familiar disciples secretly sent messages to Mengsi Niang to ask what happened. She just came out of Mengai cave, how could she know? Fourth sister, I got some news. It seems that a terrible thing happened in our overseas cultivation world. It's terrible. Suddenly, Sanyang sent her a message. Terrible thing. Mengsi Niang's heart sank. Wait for grandma to come. Although Mengsi Niang was anxious in her heart, her face was extremely calm. Seeing her calm, those disciples who didn't know what happened naturally calmed down a lot. If the sky falls, there will be a tall man to hold it up. Obviously, Mengsi Niang is that tall man in their eyes. More and more disciples are in front of the huge palace. Gradually, the atmosphere became more solemn. Many disciples secretly communicated with each other and exchanged information. As more information was exchanged, they knew more or less. Everyone looked very heavy. Not only the disciples, but also many elders and strong men of the older generation of Yugang Mountain gathered. In less than half an hour, all the disciples of Yugang Mountain were present. Grandma is here. The crowd was in a commotion. This book was recently updated in #at. Update. Mengsi Niang was at the front of the crowd in the hall, and was the first to see the grandma coming out of the palace. Grandma of Yugang Mountain, although she was called a grandma, her appearance was extraordinary, like a quiet and dignified beautiful woman. She looked no more than 30 years old, graceful, wearing a gorgeous dress, surrounded by a faint white light. Behind her were two beautiful girls. Mengsi Niang and many other disciples lined up in order below, and at this moment they bowed and saluted at the same time. Greetings, Grandma. They saluted and then fell completely silent. Grandma of Yugang Mountain stood above. All of our disciples from Yugang Mountain are here now. The grandmother of Yugang Mountain looked sad and her voice was a little heavy. Now, I want to tell you that from now on, no one can leave Yugang Mountain. From top to bottom, no matter if they are Mahayana, or transformation of spirits, or formation of Danyuanying, as long as they have cultivation, they need to be ready at all times and immediately activate our Yugang Mountain's protective formation. All disciples, prepare to live and die with Yugang Mountain. Live and die together. The sonorous and powerful voice of the grandmother of Yugang Mountain echoed in the hall and rifted outside the hall. The faces of all the disciples of Yugang Mountain changed. The grandmother they admired the most actually said such sad words. You may not believe it, but you will understand after you finish reading this file sent by the Immortal Alliance. The grandmother of Yugang Mountain did not care about the many disciples outside. What she cared about most was the disciples in the hall who were all transformation of spirits and close to Mahayana. She waved her hand. A scroll unfolded across the sky, and a colorful image was reflected on the scroll. At the beginning of the scroll, a huge fairy island was reflected, and on the fairy island there were towering peaks, which were like a long spear piercing the sky. Is it the Xianshan sect? Sanyang was surprised. Although the Xianshan sect was not as good as the Jiuzu sect, it was still stronger than the Moon Palace Mountain. There were 3 Mahayana masters, and there were hundreds of incarnations. Is it related to the Xianshan sect? Mengsi Niang was puzzled. She stared at the scroll and read on. In the scroll, the Xianshan sect was originally peaceful, and the fairy mountain was surrounded by spiritual energy, and the scenery was beautiful. Suddenly, a terrible phantom suddenly shot out from a distance, easily penetrating the entire huge mountain. The speed was so fast that the scroll could not record what it was. Just a phantom flashed, and the towering Xianshan of the Xianshan sect was shattered. Then the phantom floated behind the broken Xianshan. It was a strange monster covered with dark and hideous scales and a terrible lizard head. Thanks to the rewards from the 3 great people, by Anhuake, Book Friend 4238, and Guardian Family. Chapter 263 Void God Level. Thanks to the boss of Chui Angry Beetle for the reward. This is a monster that all the disciples of Yugang Mountain don't know. It has 4 strong arms and claws, and its body is covered with ferocious black scales. It has a powerful tail like a dragon's tail with sharp spikes, and a pair of extremely terrifying, cold and violent blood red eyes. This is an extremely terrifying monster that can easily break the Xianshan mountains. You know, the Xianshan sect has a mountain protection formation. What kind of monster is this? I haven't seen it. It must be a top level Mahayana monster. It looks very powerful. Is this monster crazy and attacking the Cheyenne sect? The disciples and elders of Yugang Mountain present all whispered. They also have disciples who were born as monsters in Yugang Mountain, and some of them have extraordinary bloodlines, so they are naturally not so surprised by monsters. But every disciple still stared at the picture unfolding on the scroll, wondering what this monster was going to do. At the same time, when the disciples of Yugang Mountain present all felt that this monster was extraordinary and very scary, a sense of fear naturally arose in their hearts, but this fear was directed at them. Mengxi Niang and Yugang Mountain Grandma were weaker. Although weaker, it still existed. This made Mengxi Niang feel heavy. Recently, she had extraordinary opportunities and her strength was already comparable to Yugang Mountain Grandma. Her vision was even more extraordinary, which made her feel fear. On the scroll, light flashed. The three great Mahayana realm masters of Cheyenne sect launched an attack at the same time. The violent Taoism instantly swept the entire sky. All the disciples in the hall watched with bated breath. The three great Mahayana realm Taoism attacked and dispersed. What? He didn't move at all? That was a joint attack by the three great Mahayana realm masters. Even if it was the Demon King Overlord, although he could resist, he had to control his spiritual power. He didn't move. The people who saw this scene in the whole palace were immediately shocked. The grandmother of Yugang Mountain looked grim, and Mengxi Niang was even more terrified as she looked at the black light lingering on the monster's body. Her face changed drastically. The previous violent attack did not fall on the monster, but had not yet fallen on the monster. It dissipated only 4 feet away from his body. Horrible. Everyone stared and continued to watch. The terrible monster on the scroll smiled and opened its lizard mouth. Suddenly, the surrounding space was distorted, emitting black light. The black light spread to the three great Mahayana realm masters. The three great Mahayana realm masters could not resist, and easily flew into the monster's mouth in the black light, and were swallowed by the latter. Not only that, the black light spread to the Cheyenne sect below, and countless disciples were suspended in an instant, all entangled by the black light. Some struggled in fear, some were still urging magic weapons, and some knelt down to pray. But without exception, they were all swallowed into the monster's mouth. Swallowed in one bite. Stunned. Fear. At this moment, all the disciples of Yugang Mountain fell into a sluggish panic. This scene was completely beyond their comprehension. In the past, monsters ate people one by one, or sacrificed human blood and ki, and died by sucking blood and ki. They had seen this before, but they had never seen this, opening their mouths, and sweeping countless lives into their mouths. How could this be possible? The Mahayana realm had no power to resist, and countless lives were swallowed at will. She not only eats people, but also monsters. The words of the Yugang Mountain Grandma sounded at the right time, and her originally gentle voice was full of heaviness. This made the disciples with monster blood in Yugang Mountain startled. The Yugang Mountain Grandma glanced at them solemnly, and waved her hand casually, and the picture on the scroll changed. The Cheyenne sect was attacked by this monster, and no one was spared. All died. From now on, there is no Cheyenne sect in this world. The Yugang Mountain Grandma took a deep breath, but this is just the beginning. She pointed to the picture on the scroll. On the scroll, the scene switched to a wide strait overseas, which was the palace of a great monster at the level of a demon king. This terrifying monster opened its mouth directly, and countless monsters in the palace flew out, swallowing all kinds of monsters. Formation. Taoism. No way to resist. The demon king didn't have time to make a move, and instantly revealed his true body of more than hundreds of meters, a huge crab. But just after revealing his true body, he was bitten off. The hard crab shell couldn't withstand a bite. Unable to resist. Destroy with ease. No matter how powerful the immortal cultivators or monsters are, they are just like a piece of dessert or a piece of cake in front of this terrifying monster. At most, they chew it. Then they swallow it. Invincible. Absolutely invincible. It's over. We're dead. The scene presented in the scroll completely shocked the disciples of Yugang Mountain. Not only them, but also the outside world. When the strong men of the Immortal Alliance risked their lives to record this scene, they urgently announced it. At this moment, there was no hesitation. This was the common disaster for all of them. All lives, regardless of monsters or humans, regardless of each other. All lives. The terrible monster was still moving forward, and wherever it passed, lives were constantly being devoured. This monster is moving forward quickly, but fortunately, it is not heading in the direction of our Yugang mountain area, which gives us a chance to catch our breath and prepare. The grandmother of Yugang mountain looked very determined. Yugang mountain has reached a life or death situation. All of us have reached a life or death situation. This book was recently updated on #@. Update. We may be able to escape, but there are still ordinary people on Yugang mountain. They can't escape. If we escape, they will all die. There were tears in the corners of Yugang mountain's grandmother's eyes. They are immortals, but they are also human beings. The many disciples all changed color. Some of them came from the island residents of Yugang mountain. This is their home. How can they not want a home? Meng Xinayang looked at the terrible monster that was finally frozen in the picture. Although the monster had not yet come to the range of Yugang mountain, it would come one day. After it came, no matter how they stopped it, the Demon King would be easily swallowed up and had no power to resist. Meng Xinayang felt heavy in her heart. She seemed to see all the disciples of Yugang mountain die. Her sisters and teachers all died. What a terrible scene. What should I do? Meng Xinayang panicked. Where did this monster come from? Why did it suddenly appear and kill people everywhere? If it had some wisdom, how could it kill so many people? The disciples of Yugang mountain were panicked. It can easily kill the Demon King level. What realm is it? Has it become an immortal? Everyone was terrified. The way of heaven is unfair. If such a monster becomes an immortal, it will surely slaughter the world. Meng Xinayang suddenly looked at the grandmother of Yugang mountain. Grandma, I know what strength this monster is, she suddenly said. Everyone in the palace turned their heads to look over. Seeing that it was Meng Xinayang, everyone listened carefully. What strength? The grandmother of Yugang mountain asked with white light lingering around her. Meng Xinayang's face was heavy, looking at the figure of the monster on the scroll. This monster is not a demon fairy, but a void god, who can walk in the void and transcend the constraints of some small worlds. Meng Xinayang said. After a hint of surprise on Yugang mountain's face, she calmed down, while the other disciples were all surprised. Void god. What level is this? What is a void? They practiced immortality and cultivation all day long, but they didn't know that breaking through the heavenly immortals would transcend the constraints of the small world and enter the void. Quiet! Yugang mountain's grandmother shouted, and there was a sudden silence. Xinayang, are you sure this is a void god level monster? She asked solemnly. Yes. Meng Xinayang nodded. She was very sure. At the same time, the news spread from Yugang mountain to the Immortal Alliance, and the Immortal Venerable in the Immortal Alliance received the message. In a magnificent palace. Void god level? This Yugang mountain has great knowledge, and knows about the void god. Knowing it is one thing, but how to deal with it? The Immortal Venerable looked grim. The leaders of the Buddhist and Taoist sects are all here, and all the top masters of overseas immortal cultivators are gathered here. Discuss countermeasures. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264. Where is Sudong? Knowing it's the void god, so what? You've seen that our Dao methods can't even get close to the monster's body, and they dispersed easily. Dao sect leader Yao King Mingzi, dressed in a dark blue Dao robe, surrounded by spiritual light, said with an ugly face. This is a disaster between heaven and earth. How could a void god level monster suddenly appear in this world? This monster likes to kill so much. Void god, in these long years, they don't know how many inheritances they have received. So naturally they know a lot about Void God. Void God is on par with heavenly Dao immortals. Even in the void, any Void God who can venture into the void is extremely powerful. Heavenly Dao immortals, who become immortals in their own small world, will be very powerful because they can directly borrow the power of the heavenly Dao of the small world. But when they leave the small world, without the blessing of the heavenly Dao, their strength will be weakened. Void God is different. Void God's strength will not be weakened when entering other small worlds, because Void God himself is very strong. When entering a small world, the heavenly Deo of the small world will give way. It is not difficult to know that it is a monster at the level of the Void God, but it is difficult to know how to deal with this monster. The demon tribe has contacted us, and we are fighting together. This is our common enemy. These monsters are panicking too. Haha, the Void God monster eats everyone. It is rare for these leaders to laugh. In this world, the human race and the demon race have been fighting for countless years. They have been fighting since the beginning of civilization, but now they have united. Everyone knows, if we can't stop the Void God, then the world will be destroyed. The tribe will be destroyed. Everything will be in vain, and there will be no monster race or human race. Deal with it together. How to deal with it? A sharp-nosed and monkey-faced immortal cultivator is not good looking, but there is a sharp light in his eyes. If we want to fight against the Void God, one of us must break through and become a heavenly Deo immortal. Once we become a heavenly Deo immortal, we can naturally deal with the Void God. The immortal venerable said solemnly. Becoming a heavenly Deo immortal and being born in the local world with the blessing of heavenly Deo, it is easy to fight against the Void God. Become an immortal? Everyone looked around and saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. You don't know until you reach their level, but you will understand when you reach it. If it comes to becoming an immortal, they are all sure, but there is just one step left. According to the information they have received over the years, there is a flaw in their world, and it is destined to be unable to breed a heavenly Deo immortal. Everyone is trapped at the last step. If you want to become an immortal, there is only a glimmer of hope, unless you reach the void. But who can enter the void? Speak of another way. The old monk, the leader of the Buddhist sect, spoke directly. Then there is no choice. We can only arrange the 10 directions extinction array. The 10 directions extinction array is the only array that we have collected over the years that can gather power to the level of heavenly Deo power. Only this array has the hope of killing the Void God. The immortal venerable said. The 10 directions extinction array? That means everything is extinct spiritual energy, life, everything affected will be extinct. Not only living beings, but also the heaven and earth will be damaged. The price is too high. A strong man hesitated. The price. If we don't kill the Void God, we will all become food. No matter how big the price is, it's not big enough. A young man with a golden face snorted coldly. In fact, there is no need to kill the Void God. Just make him seriously injured and afraid, and know that we are not easy to mess with. That's enough. No need to say more. I support the use of the 10 directions extinction array. Not only must we use it, but we must use all our strength to kill the Void God and let him know how powerful we are. The old Buddhist monk said decisively. He was a high monk in Buddhism, but at this moment he was the one who killed the most. I support it too. The leader of the Deo sect nodded. In addition, the immortal venerable proposed. Then there is nothing to say. Just do as the immortal venerable said, and set up the 10 directions extinction array. It's just that the location for setting up the array must be selected. It's best to wait for the Void God to fall into the trap. Kill him in one fell swoop. Many powerful people nodded. This 10 directions extinction array requires a lot of materials. Ask for them from the demon clan. The immortal venerable smiled. This is their common disaster. Whether it's human or demon, don't think of staying out of it. They finished discussing the matter. Suddenly, the leader of Deo sect looked at the immortal venerable. Immortal venerable, can you contact Su Shengzhen? This matter. Is he not involved? The leader of Deo sect asked. If the sky falls, the tall man will hold it up. Now is a time of crisis for the world. Why doesn't Sudan show up? He is a hegemon level strongman, and most people present are afraid. I have sent a message to Su Shengzhen as soon as possible, but Shengzhen's message is isolated. I can't contact him either. The immortal venerable told the truth. Suddenly, the expressions of the people present were different. Isolated. You really know how to choose the time to isolate the message. I think he is probably hiding. It's also normal for a little guy who has only lived for more than 20 years to be afraid of death. They sent messages to each other, but they dare not speak out. The immortal venerable wanted to say a few words for Sudan, but there was nothing he could do. After all, it was true that Sudang suddenly disappeared. I asked Jincheo, and the ancestor of Jincheo also sent a message, which was also isolated. Obviously, Jincheo didn't know where Shenzhen went. Can't find, can't contact. But even if he knew, what would it matter? That was the Void God. No matter how powerful Sudang was, he was still a long way from the Void God level. Prepare the 10 directions extinction array. Kill the Void God in one fell swoop. A group of strong men contacted the Demon Clan and began to act. This book was recently updated on #@. Update. This is their last trump card, and also their only trump card. On Yugang Mountain, Meng Si Niang stood alone on a lonely peak. Her face was a little haggard, but she still had a peerless beauty. She held a brocade bag and a talisman in her hands. In the outside world, people were in panic everywhere. It was said that the Void God monster had descended on another sect and devoured all living beings. Don't count on your little lover. He is talented and lucky, but that is the Void God. Although he was injured and in a very miserable state, he can only be regarded as a stray dog in the void. But for your world, it is still a disaster. A cold and stubborn voice came from the glazed tower on her wrist. I'm just worried about him. Meng Si Niang sighed. Then she said, I have no choice. This is my home. I can't retreat. Although her voice was soft, it was extremely firm. Stupid, as long as you enter my glazed tower, that beast can't break my glazed tower. There will be a bright future waiting for you in the future. Is it worth dying for some irrelevant people? In the glazed tower, a cold voice without a trace of emotion shouted. Meng Si Niang was silent for a moment. You don't understand. This is her home, and these people are her compatriots. The mountains and rivers are broken, the home is gone, and the people she loves most are completely gone. She survived alone. Even if she became an immortal, even if she lived for a long time, what's the point? She had already had a clear mind, and the decision she made was even more firm. How stupid. How stupid. Don't worry, you are stupid enough to die. I won't let you die. At the critical moment, I will try my best to save your life. In the glazed tower, a cold and beautiful woman stood in the endless ice and snow, looking at the outside world. A clear mind and firmness are virtues, but they are also shackles. Hometown, family, lover. These are what every intelligent life values. The stronger one is, the more obsession one has in his heart. He will never give up easily, even if he dies for it. In the Jin Dynasty, there were the ancestors of the Jin Dynasty, Prime Minister Li, and the Emperor of Jin. There were many powerful people in the Shifen Pavilion. Now the three dynasties have merged into one, with many powerful people and a vast territory. There are even more people, and they are extremely panicked at this moment. The Holy Lord still can't be contacted. Where is the Holy Lord? Without the Holy Lord, they have lost their backbone. At this moment, they all want to know. Where is Sudang? Chapter 265, Void Palace Master. In one day, from entering the Yan family inheritance to accepting the fourth test of the Yan family inheritance, and then walking out of the cabin, Sudang spent a total of 12 hours. Walking out of the cabin, Sudang was covered with dark red battle clothes. Within 3 feet around him, the heavenly way avoided him, and the spiritual energy was disordered. In his palm, there was a metal ring lying quietly, with a small triangular strange statue carved on the top of the ring. The fourth test of the Yan family inheritance is actually the test of the Lord of the Void Palace. This is the seventh Void God of the Yan family. He used to be a Lord of the Void Palace. Now I'm also a Lord of the Void Palace. Sudang played with the ring in his hand, recalling the previous test. The test was to fight a half-step heavenly way level void creature that had survived for tens of thousands of years in a wooden house prison. If he failed, his soul would die, and Sudang would also die. If he succeeded, he would inherit the identity of the Lord of the Void Palace, become a Lord of the Void Palace. At the level of half-step heavenly way, if Sudang only comprehended the mystery of the 8th level of wind, he might still have difficulty in fighting. However, now that Sudang's spiritual level has broken through, and he has completely controlled his body, coupled with the power of the blood flame in the inner world, Sudang used heavenly punishment and easily solved the creature with one knife. It's not too easy for me to kill a half-step heavenly way void creature now. Sudang's face was full of ease. After passing the fourth test, the thunder and lightning around him dissipated, and he appeared in the Yan family palace again. I'm so lucky to meet a genius like you in a broken little world. A cold voice sounded in the Yan family palace. Although the voice was cold, it contained unparalleled excitement and joy. Sudan felt something in his heart and looked forward, but he saw that the statue of the seventh void god of the Yan family had disappeared where it had stood. Instead, there was a tall throne. On the throne, sat a giant nearly 3 meters tall, the seventh void god of the Yan family. At this moment, the void god was wearing a pitch black battle armor with countless stars and stars on it, and wearing gorgeous combat boots. He also wore a domineering crown on his head, which was as cool as it could be, but Sudan could see at a glance that it was just an illusion. It was an illusion left by the void god when he was alive. However, being able to control 3 powers, even if it was just an illusion after death, still made Sudan feel a little pressure. Void god. Sudan couldn't help but salute the void god. Call me Yankee. The illusion smiled, and the smile was extremely free and happy. I'm very happy to see my successor. I have never taught you, and you don't have to call me a teacher. Teacher is very important, and I'm not worthy of it. He pointed forward casually. The ground of the palace under Sudan's feet shook slightly, and then a stone platform appeared. There were 3 items on the surface of the stone platform. When Sudan saw these 3 items, he suddenly felt bright. These are my favorite weapon, the most powerful method, and the most noble identity in my lifetime. Yankee said with a smile, pointing at the 3 items. They were a golden spear, a jade slip, and a token. The 3 items floated up and flew towards Sudan. Sudan stretched out his hand to take them. Yankee smiled when he saw this. At this moment, you are my successor. The Void Palace Master Ring in your hand can transform into a void boat to take you into the void. It is also the control core of this temple. This is what I said before. You will eventually transcend the constraints of heaven and earth. This technique can allow you to practice to the level of realm god. It is the top technique of our clan and must not be leaked. This spear contains my power. You can only use it after you break through the void god. Remember not to activate the power of the spear under the void god, otherwise you will die. Finally, it is my family token. Accept my treasure, and also accept my cause and effect. I hope that one day, you can hand this token back to the hands of the Yan family of Xinghu world. Sudan listened carefully, and when he heard the last request, Sudan nodded solemnly. If I have the strength to go to the Starlight world one day, I will definitely send this token to you. Very good. The road to becoming strong is difficult and bumpy. I once thought about living a carefree life, but I was unwilling to give up. I pursued the road to becoming stronger. I lacked some luck and eventually failed and died. Before I died, I found that the most important thing was not the strongest, but my relatives in my hometown. The seventh void god of the Yan clan looked extremely solemn. Sudan even saw tears sliding down the cheeks of the phantom of the void god. If I could do it again, how much I hope, how much I hope. He cried and cried, but suddenly raised his palm and touched his cheek. Then he smiled. Tears? I'm already dead. How can I have tears? No matter how much I regret it, if I do it again, I'm afraid I will make the same choice. I'm born to pursue being stronger. How can I be willing to be inferior to others? Wow. The entire seventh void god of the Yan clan completely dissipated, and the tall body was instantly shattered. Yankee! Sudan shouted. Then he was silent. This void god still has a bottom line and pride. He also knows that the strong have pride. He gave you many inheritances, but only asked you to give a token one day. That's right, with your talent, you will definitely surpass him in the future. Even if you don't accept his inheritance, it doesn't matter. Feng Larangzi spoke, telepathically. Because of importance and respect, they don't ask too much. Even if he dies, he is still a strong man. Sudan sighed. There was regret before death, but if it were to start over, he would still make the same choice. Because of a heart that pursues the strongest. As long as this heart is not dead, the road to the strongest will not stop, and Sudan also admires it. After sighing, Sudan began to check his gains this time. This book was recently updated in #. Update. This spear was named spiritual by Yankee. It was made of precious materials and contains part of his power. It is an absolute treasure to be able to contain part of his power in a spear, but it needs to be activated by the Void God. I can't bear the backlash of power now. In addition, this technique is called the Secret Book of Divine Martial Arts. It is the core technique of the Yan family. It can be cultivated all the way to the level of the Realm God. Well, it is extraordinary. Sudong was very grateful to Yan Qi. In Feng Lao Rang's words, the value of the technique in the void is extremely high. Yan Qi left him the technique, which is a great favor. Finally, there is the identity token. With Sudong's current spiritual level, he could sense that this token was also similar to a storage space, but he could not penetrate and open this storage space. He didn't go into it for the moment. Maybe it was a relic left by Yan Qi to his hometown. He has already obtained a lot and is not greedy at all. It's time to leave. This palace is mine. Feng Lao, you said earlier that we were going to Yijin Fairy Island to get the void boat. Now I have not only the void boat, but also a palace. This is the palace of the Lord of the Void Palace. Sudong said with a smile. The Lord of the Void Palace. Why can he be called the Lord of the Palace? It's because their temple walks in the void. This temple is a treasure, and its value is even higher than that of the immortal cave in Jiuhua Mountain. But becoming the Lord of the Void Palace has another responsibility. It is bound to my soul and spirit. As long as my realm reaches the level of the Void God, I must explore the void once in a while. Because of this binding, the Lord of the Void Palace can summon his own temple, even if it is infinitely far away. Sudong smiled. Soul binding, a very strange setting. Boom. On this day, in the endless darkness, in the space full of ghosts, the huge black palace kept shrinking and finally disappeared. The triangular entrance to the secret realm of Zenshin. The river is rushing, and a figure appears above. As soon as he appeared, many communication talismans on his body vibrated at the same time. Sudong was shocked by this kind of vibration. Chapter 266. Bad news, Stone Ghost. I just cut off communication for a day, and so many people came to me. People from the Immortal Alliance, the Jin Dynasty, many immortal leaders, and Meng Si Niang. What happened? Sudong checked these messages as soon as he could, and he was stunned. The messages from all sides were the same bad news. The Immortal Alliance even sent him a series of scroll messages. Sudong took a look. Void God creature? How could a Void God appear in this world? Sudong was stunned. Void God appeared in a small world? That is absolutely invincible. Absolutely invincible. Sudong was shocked and sent a message to Feng Lao Rongxi in the Immortal Cave. Feng Lao, something big happened. Sudong also entered the cave as soon as possible. What's the matter? So urgent. Feng Lao Rongxi's face was full of smiles. It was rare to see Sudong so anxious. Look at this. What kind of void creature is this? Sudong asked. He waved his hand, and a scroll image unfolded in front of Feng Lao Rongxi. Void creature? Feng Lao Rongxi looked over curiously. As soon as he saw it, he smiled. Oh, a void god of the Stone Ghost clan. So weak, but it's still killing. It's really a beast tribe in the void. Feng Lao Rongxi smiled when she saw it. In her eyes, the void god creature in front of her was just a beast. Stone Ghost clan. Sudong was stunned. He recalled the many messages he got in the body hall of Yijin Fairy Island. Among them, there was an introduction to the Void Clan. The Stone Ghost clan was not famous, and its bloodline was not noble. It was just scum in the void, but they were numerous, and liked to kill. They liked to eat the bodies of dead strong men the most. Of course, that was to become stronger. Their way to become stronger was to eat the bodies of strong men. The stronger the bodies they ate, the greater their gains. Even among the same clan, as long as the strong died, the body would be eaten instantly. The Stone Ghost clan was notoriously uncivilized and had no moral bottom line in the void. They were notoriously beastly. They were raised by the strong men in the void as tools for slaughter, and some were used as war machines. In the minds of the low-level Stone Ghosts, there are only two things, killing and eating. The higher-level Stone Ghosts prefer to mate and let countless lives give birth to offspring for them. However, they do not cultivate their offspring after giving birth. When the offspring grow up, they will eat them, because they need to eat continuously to maintain and improve their genes. Children. In their eyes, it is an endless supply of food. But even so, they can't stand the huge number of this tribe. Their survival rate is too high, and they can't eat them all. Once the strong ones die, they will be eaten by the weak offspring, and the offspring will instantly become strong. This is the scum tribe in the void, a notorious creature in the void. Such creatures appear in the small world. If there is no strong person who can compete with them, it will be a disaster for this world. Sudan. Where did you get the file from? There are even pictures of the stone ghosts. This stone ghost should be dead. Looking at its weak appearance, it should be eaten by its own tribe immediately. Feng Lao Rongzi smiled. This void god of the stone ghost clan is in this world right now. Not only is he not dead, he is still killing people. Sudan shook his head, his face extremely pale. What? The smile on Feng Lao Rongzi's face rose. You said that this void god of the stone ghost clan is in this world? The void god level stone ghost clan, even if they are injured, appearing in this world is not something that this world can stop. It's over. This world is over. It's over. Feng Lao Rongzi couldn't help but murmur. She had seen too many small worlds in the void, being occupied by the stone ghost clan, and the whole world turned into a granary. The stone ghost clan will not stop killing and devouring. As long as they are alive, they will never stop killing. Never stop. They will only become more violent and cruel as time goes by. Such a void god level stone ghost clan actually appeared in this world? It's over? Feng Lao Rongzi's words were like a huge hammer hitting Sudang's heart, hammering him a little dazed. Although he was just a passerby in this world, there were his relatives, his benefactors, people he missed, and many of his friends. It's over? What a light sentence. All these people will die. Yes, he can drive the void boat away at any time. But what about those people? What to do? I may be able to fight with the stone ghost clan. Didn't you say he was very weak? Sudang said. Weak? Compared to the void god, he is weak. But compared to you, he is still too strong. Sudang, you are not his opponent. Calm down. You have to live. You can survive. Feng Lao Rongzi said. What about them, Godfather, Li Xiangai? What about Dashu, Sinayang and others? What about them? Sudang asked back. They can't drive the void boat away. Unless they reach his level, they can't leave. Feng Lao Rongzi was silent. Once upon a time, she also watched her relatives die, and she was powerless. Kill him. We must kill the stone ghost clan. There must be hope. Sudang gritted his teeth. After leaving the immortal cave, Sudang immediately sent a message to Meng Sinayang, Li Xiangai, Xianzhen and others. I'm in Ningen. How is the situation? This response instantly reached many people. Su Shengzhen? Xianzhen was extremely surprised. Shengzhen, Li Xiangai and others found the backbone in an instant. This book has been updated recently in #@. Update. I'm glad you're okay. I'm fine. Is there any way to kill that monster? Meng Sinayang said the most. Don't worry, it will die. Sudang was extremely determined, and his killing intent surged. Retreat? He would never retreat. It would be easy for him to retreat, but the whole world would be extinct. He couldn't retreat, and he wouldn't retreat. Feng Lao said that the Stone Ghost clan was very weak, so there is hope. Sudang said secretly, if there is a glimmer of hope, you can't give up. Ningen County. His adoptive father Yangan and Zheng Dashu didn't know what happened in the outside world. Sudang suddenly appeared in the mansion. Donja, what happened? The golden mist in the sky is much thicker. Yangan asked in confusion. Big thing. Godfather, Dashu, I will send you to a cave now, so that you can guarantee your safety. Sudang said. Oh, okay. Yangan and Zheng Dashu knew the seriousness of the situation. Sudang was a saint, and Sudang was so anxious, so you can imagine how serious the situation was. He took his godfather and Zheng Dashu into the immortal cave. Sudang immediately got up, and went to Dadu, Jin Dynasty. In the palace of the imperial capital, many strong men gathered here. Sudang sat on the throne at the top with a grim face. Saint, the latest situation. The terrible monster swallowed some immortal cultivators, destroyed several major sects and monster nests, and then stopped. It stopped in the Luaksha sect mountain. Li Xiangai reported the latest news to Sudang. The people below still had a happy look on their faces. Now it seems that the monster's route is opposite to the Jin Dynasty. The monster that came to the demon sect earlier didn't eat all the disciples of the demon sect and left many behind. Perhaps the monster didn't kill them all? A true lord of the 10 Directions Pavilion of the Jin Dynasty hoped. Sudong looked over coldly. Everyone, this monster is called the Stone Ghost Clan, and its strength is at the level of the Void God. It left some alive just because it thought they were delicious and wanted to keep them in captivity. As for why it is resting now, that's because it is very weak and has swallowed a lot of lives to digest. We must kill it. If we can't kill it, we will die. If we don't die, we will be breeding pigs for this beast to continue to produce food. Sudong's voice was cold and resounded throughout the hall, dispelling the last bit of luck in the hearts of the strong men in the hall. In the same way, he also passed the news about the Stone Ghost Clan to the Immortal Venerable as soon as possible. This Void God Stone Ghost must be killed. Chapter 267, 10 Directions Annihilation. At the moment, when the Immortal Alliance received the message from the Stone Ghost Clan, the powerful men who were originally watching the Stone Ghost Clan's dynamics and were still in a state of uncertainty suddenly shuddered. It was like a basin of cold water poured over their heads, and they suddenly woke up. Only know how to kill and eat? Raise the life of the world for its reproduction, and be eaten by it? Die. This beast of the Stone Ghost Clan must die. If it doesn't die, I would rather die than become a breeding pig for its reproduction food. Kill. This Stone Ghost Clan Void God must be killed. Holy Lord, is this message you send credible? The Immortal Lord asked in a voice transmission. Absolutely credible. Sudong responded. The Immortal Lord was shocked. He was surprised at the nature of the Stone Ghost Clan and Sudong's intelligence information. I'm dissatisfied with the Holy Lord. After discussion, we are arranging the 10 Directions Extinction Array to kill this Stone Ghost Void God in one fell swoop. The Immortal Lord sent a message. The 10 Direction Extinction Formation? Sudong had heard of this formation after receiving many messages from the Void. It was an absolute killing formation. Anyone below the 5th level of Heavenly Deo Immortal would die if they were trapped in the 10 Direction Extinction Formation. How could the Immortal Venerable and his people set up such a formation? Sudong was delighted. At the same time, he passed the news to Feng Lao Rong Zhi. The 10 Direction Extinction Formation? Feng Lao Rong Zhi's eyes lit up. Once this formation is activated, even if it is the smallest range, it will destroy all life within 1,000 miles, and it will cause great damage to the world itself. Because the formation is so powerful that it can even damage the world itself, no force has ever used this formation. The most important thing now is to kill the Stone Ghost, and I can't care about so many other things. Sudong shook his head. Well, the strength of the Stone Ghost Clan should be at the level of the 3rd level of the Void God. The most important thing is that it is very weak at the moment. Feng Lao Rong Zhi reminded. We should take advantage of his weakness to kill him. Sudong nodded immediately. Then he asked the Immortal Venerable about some details of the formation. As for the materials and time for setting up the formation, the key is the location. We want to kill the Stone Ghost and completely eliminate it. First, the 10 Directions Extinction Formation is a formation after all. It cannot be moved. We need to let the beast take the initiative to enter it. Second, it takes time to activate the formation. During this period of time, we must use some means to entangle him. Two major problems. The Stone Ghost is very cunning. If the location of the formation is not tempting enough, why would it go? If it is set up in some sects, firstly, there is no initiative, and it is not certain when the Stone Ghost will enter. Secondly, this 10 Directions Extinction Formation is a killing formation after all, and all the creatures in it will die. Which sect is willing to die? Second, it takes time to activate the formation. How to buy this time? Sudong nodded slightly. This is indeed a big problem. However, once the 10 Directions Extinction Formation is activated, it is very likely to kill the Stone Ghost Clan. In the Palace of the Immortal Alliance, many leaders of immortal cultivation are sitting here, and the old monk of the Buddhist sect is the first to stand up at this moment. Everyone, it takes strength to entangle that beast. We don't need to consider the weak ones. We just need to pick one from among us. The demon clan must send out the demon king level strongman, and we must also take action to entangle the beast. There are only two possibilities. The first is to be killed by the beast, and the second is to be killed by the 10 directions extinction formation. It's death anyway. Who is willing to die? I'm a tabha. If I don't go to hell, who will? I'm willing to fight and entangle that beast. The leader of the Buddhist sect spoke, and was the first to stand up. Sudong, who was in the Jin Dynasty, naturally heard the voice of the old monk through the communication, and his body was shocked. Go over. He didn't have the slightest good impression of this Buddhist sect, but at this critical moment, he was the first to stand up, and was willing to sacrifice himself. To entangle the stone ghost, with the strength of the stone ghost, I'm afraid it can easily kill any half-step heavenly level strongman. Going is death, using your own life to delay, until the formation is activated. If the 10 directions extinction array can't kill the stone ghost, we will have no chance. Admin, I'm willing to go. Suddenly, the evil king stood up with an evil smile on his face and madness in his eyes. He had been evil all his life, and was decisive in killing. Even if he died, he would die on the road of fighting. Being frightened by a beast. That's not him, the evil king. Count me in. Sudong said, and his voice resounded throughout the hall through the communication token. This is the only chance, and it must not be missed. The look of the immortal venerable changed. All the strong men in the Immortal Alliance present changed their faces. Even the evil king and the old monk, the leader of the Buddhist sect, were surprised. They have lived for a long time, and their hearts have long been polished and extremely bright. It is nothing for them to die calmly, but how old is Sudong? So young, and so determined? It really shocked them. Holy Venerable, you are going to. The Immortal Venerable hesitated. In terms of strength, Sudong is now the well-deserved number 1 present. If the 10 directions extinction formation fails, who can fight the stone ghost? Only Sudong. I must go. We only have one chance. Sudong's voice was extremely firm. Everyone was silent, even the people in the Jin Dynasty, who heard Sudong's words, and wanted to stop him. Li Xiangai and others were silent. Yes, they had no choice, only this one chance. Someone must sacrifice, someone must fight. I will go too. Sudong turned his head, and saw that it was Li Xiangai. I'm good at formations, and can maximize the 10 directions extinction formation. Li Xiangai said. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. Li Xiangai's achievements in formations are well known throughout the world. And me. I will go too. Fuck him. Fight that beast. Many leaders in the Immortal Alliance stood up. The same message was transmitted to the Demon Clan. I, the Demon King of the Azure Sea, am willing to go and fight for my Demon Clan. I'm willing to go. Kill that beast. There was almost no delay. The Demon Clan was more straightforward than them. This straightforwardness shocked Sudong. You know, the impression of the Demon Clan in their hearts has always been that they are in opposition and enemies, but at this moment, they are so united, and there is no hesitation. In fact, compared with them, the monsters have a stronger sense of territory, and are more aggressive. The Stone Ghost clan barged into this world rudely, which has already angered the bottom line of the Demon Clan. This world belongs to them. Even if they die, they must defend their territory. It's crazy. Feng Lao Rongsi couldn't help but sigh when he heard this scene in the Immortal Cave. In the face of destruction, these strong men who can really stand up, no matter how high her vision is, still make her feel shocked. Holy Lord, at this moment, our human race has a total of 26 leaders, and the demon race has a total of 32 strong men who are willing to go and fight the Stone Ghost clan. The only problem now is how to lure the Stone Ghost clan into the game. The Immortal Lord said in a low voice, willing to fight to the death, but also to let the opponent fall into a trap. The Stone Ghost clan likes to devour the corpses of the strong the most. We need to collect the corpses of the strong in this world, preferably the corpses of the heavenly Deo immortals, or the corpses of the void god. A leader spoke. Yes, the corpses of the strong are a great temptation to the Stone Ghost clan. At the first moment, many leaders began to take out their treasures for many years, and took out many corpses of strong men. I also have a corpse of a heavenly Deo immortal. Sudong entered the Immortal Cave, and with a thought, the corpse of Jiuhua Mountain Saint Emo emerged from the soil of the cave. I have no choice. Sudong muttered silently while looking at the corpse in front of him. "Mo, you are also a benefactor of our human race." Without any hesitation, Sudong contributed the corpse at the first time. At this moment, all overseas practitioners left and headed for the mainland. The 9th Patriarch taught at Yugang Mountain, and Mengsi Niang also came to the Jin Dynasty. Chapter 268, 10 Directions Annihilation. Jin Dynasty. Sudong, dressed in a white robe, stood side by side with Mengsi Niang. "Are you really going?" Mengsi Niang looked at the young man in front of her. There were streaks of white light lingering on her body, and there was no excitement in her eyes, only worry. She didn't want the young man in front of her to take risks, but she knew she had no choice. "Yeah." Sudong nodded slightly. He was not afraid of death. In order to save Mengsi Niang, he dared to go to Black Wind Mountain and fight the black-winded monster. Mengsi Niang had already understood his character. If Sudong was afraid, he would not have grown to this point. As long as there is a glimmer of hope, he will fight for it. Never give up. "Can you tell me how sure you are that you can kill that monster?" Mengsi Niang couldn't help asking. If the formation is activated, there should be a 100% chance of killing it. Sudong said, "The 10 direction extinction formation, fully activated, can directly kill even the 5th level heavenly Dao immortal. The beast is now injured, so it should be easier to kill him. As long as he is affected, he will die." The void god of the Stone Ghost clan died. What about him? What about their many strong men? Question mark? They will also die. Mengsi Niang turned and left. She turned around, tears already falling from her cheeks. This is their last trump card. Maybe many people will die because of this, but she can no longer keep it, can't stop it. The world needs to be saved and sacrificed. How much does she want to go with Sudong? Sudong, remember, if the 10 direction extinction formation can't kill the Stone Ghost, you must survive. If you survive, you will have a chance. Feng Larangzi telepathically transmitted. Sudong was silent. Mengsi Niang, who was walking away in the distance, held a brocade bag tightly in her hand and never let go. Holy Lord, the formation has been constructed, and many powerful people have arrived at the Buddhist fairy island. The remains of many powerful people have also been delivered. The immortal Lord sent a message. Well, I'll be there soon. Sudong did not hesitate and turned into a stream of light, showing the speed of the world, and quickly flew towards the overseas Buddhist fairy island. The demon race and humans joined forces for the first time. The demon race collected many corpses of powerful people, from the remains of the void god, the remains of the heavenly Dao immortal, to the remains of the half-step heavenly Dao immortal, and many other remains. All of them were brought, and the human race also contributed many remains and treasures. The formation locations were all arranged on the Buddhist fairy island. After this battle, regardless of success or failure, there will be no Buddhist fairy island in this world. And the spiritual materials needed to arrange the 10 directions extinction formation are also extremely large. The human race alone is really a bit stretched to collect them at a time. At the critical moment, many great demons in the demon swamp took the initiative to stand up and contribute many materials. At this moment, this world has reached the moment of life and death. No one would hide it privately, and they wanted to use all their strength to kill the void god of the Stone Ghost clan in one fell swoop. On this day, a large formation without any spiritual fluctuations and faintly emitting death was built. Simple and unpretentious. Once this large formation was arranged, it directly concealed its form and did not emit any fluctuations. Standing in the center of the Buddhist fairy island, at the same time, a large number of remains and corpses were piled up in the center of the fairy island. Most of these corpses exuded endless terrible auras. Even if they had died for a long time, the strong fluctuations that were integrated into their bones had not dissipated. As a strong man, the genes are still contained in these corpses, which are fatal temptations for the Stone Ghost clan. The body of the Saint Zemo of Jiuhua Mountain was placed among these many corpses. Sudong and many other strong men were waiting in a palace on the fairy island. If I die, and I can kill that beast, I will hand over everything in the clan to you, my third son. If that beast of the Stone Ghost clan is not dead, all of you will commit suicide. Don't be greedy for the world will change drastically. I will definitely kill that beast of the Stone Ghost clan. Humans, demons, Buddhists, Taoists, righteous cultivators, evil cultivators, immortals, mortals, court officials, sect disciples, all waiting anxiously. Ningen County of the Jin Dynasty, the Saint's Mansion, Jiuhu Mountain Immortal Cave Mansion. In the training room, Feng Lao Rongzi stayed here alone. You are so good, Sudong. You didn't take me with you, didn't take me with you. Feng Lao Rongzi gritted his teeth. Outside the training room, Zheng Dashu and Yangan were in the hall. Behind the hall were enough food, spiritual fruits, many cultivation books, treasures, and a scroll in front of them, through which they could see everything in the outside world. Donja went to kill the monster, leaving us enough food to survive here for hundreds of years. Master is not sure, so he arranged it this way. Yangan and Zheng Dashu looked at the world outside the scroll anxiously. Because of Sudong's arrangement, even if the world is destroyed in the end, they can survive this life, but they have to be confined to this cave. This is already the best arrangement. Under the catastrophe, how many people can escape from the world safely? At this moment, all the cultivators, through their own means, saw the many figures on the Buddhist fairy island. That is the last line of defense in their world. Night. Above the Luaksha sect overseas, a terrible and hideous figure appeared in the sky. The blood-red eyes were full of tyranny, and the cold eyes looked into the distance. The ugly lizard head was full of greed and desire. This taste is so delicious. It's the taste of a delicious corpse. It waved its forearms, and its black scales were extremely cold. As a stone ghost creature, it was born with an obsession with corpses. It was contained in its blood and bones. Cruel. Tyranny, devouring corpses. This book was recently updated on #@. Update. No desire can resist the temptation of corpses, especially the corpses of the strong. This small world actually has such a rich and delicious corpse smell. It is really a blessed place for my netherworld master. My injuries need delicious corpses to recover. The void god of the Stone Ghost clan greedily flew in the night sky and quickly flew across the night sky. His speed was too fast, and the rules of heaven within 4 feet around him were upheld. In less than a moment, it arrived above the Buddhist fairy island. Suddenly, it stopped, and its terrifying body was suspended in the air, and its dark red eyes stared coldly at the fairy island below. This island. It is tyrannical and cruel by nature, but this does not mean that it is stupid. On the contrary, it is extremely cunning and vigilant. As soon as it approached the island, it found that there was a hint of unusual breath under the delicious corpse on the island. It's coming. It's so scary. Why doesn't it come down? In the palace of the fairy island, many strong people watched nervously. Sudong was in front of many powerful people, and his eyes were also cold as he stared at the stone ghost void god above. Although he is injured, he still repels the rules of the heavenly Dao by 4 feet. Obviously, even if he is seriously injured, his strength is far greater than mine. A skinny camel is bigger than a horse. The 3-level heavenly void god realm is there, suppressing everything. And he is very cautious, cunning and bloodthirsty. Sudong felt his heart sink. This is a natural killing machine. No wonder there are powerful forces in the void to keep the Stone Ghost clan to kill for themselves. Boom. In midair, the Stone Ghost clan void god suddenly waved one of its forearms. The terrifying arm waved, and suddenly a terrible power burst out, directly hitting a corner of the fairy island. Bang! The fairy island was directly shattered. With a rumble, a huge red light emerged. The red light contained a blow from a half-step heavenly Dao immortal, and turned into a light column to hit the Stone Ghost clan creature above. But it dissipated before the latter. In the palace, Sudong and others watched this scene. The formation was activated, but it didn't hurt the beast at all, and disappeared without a trace. The first bait formation was triggered. The beast came in. There are 3 more bait formations in its direction. None of them can do anything to it. Don't worry. This bait formation is just to lower its guard. As long as it wants to get those corpses, it will definitely come in. In the palace, the old Buddhist monks were talking and laughing. The immortal venerable also nodded. Sudong watched calmly, watching the stone ghost creature falling step by step. Chapter 269, 10 Directions Annihilation. Even if it was just a bait formation, it still had the power of half a step of the heavenly Dao. If it was placed in the outside world, it could easily destroy a county city and kill hundreds of thousands of people in an instant. But this powerful formation could not cause any harm to the Lord of the Netherworld. Formation? The life in this world is so weak. Without the void god and the heavenly Deo immortal, it is destined to be unable to do anything to me. I'm the Lord. In the dark sky, 3 of the 4 arms of the Lord of the Netherworld were behind his back, and only one would swing at will, relaxed and freehand. The previous formation stimulation not only did not make him feel pressured and afraid, but made him feel very relaxed and interesting. Boom. A blue light lit up above the fairy island. The azure spiritual power torrent rushed up to the sky. Well, it's so easy. Struggle, struggle. I like to devour the life that struggles to death. The more it struggles, the more delicious it is. The Lord of the Netherworld easily resisted all the power of the formation on the spot, and the heavenly Deo spiritual power within a 4-foot range was repelled. These formations with the power of half a step of the heavenly Deo could not cause him any harm. He is the void god of the 3rd heaven. Even though he was seriously injured and weak at this moment, he was still the void god. The first bait formation, the second bait formation. One formation after another was activated, and rays of light reflected the horizon. Each ray of light had an absolutely violent destructive power. The formation was like a surging wave above the Buddhist fairy island, bursting again and again. After the formation was activated, the impact power was continuous, and there would be a transition from weak to strong. Boom, boom, boom. The formation hit mercilessly, and the whole world, and the immortal cultivators who watched this scene through monitoring methods. They were extremely nervous and their hearts were hanging. Even Sudang, the immortal venerable, and the Buddhist supreme in the palace of the Buddhist fairy island were nervous, and held their breath, because the Lord of the Netherworld was getting closer and closer, and was about to enter the central range of the 10 directions extinction formation. Several bait formations were activated one after another, and the power of the formations exploded and washed around the Lord of the Netherworld. At this moment, all the sects, all the disciples, the imperial court, and all the powerful people in the world are watching this scene. They can see this scene. They all know that the most important killing intent is not on these small formations, but on the 10 direction extinction formation. According to the plan, once the 10 direction extinction formation is activated, the Stone Ghost Clan Void God will die. Dark night. The Lord of the Netherworld was relaxed and free, striding through the void towards the many corpses in the center, with a hint of excitement in its blood-red eyes. That was the temptation of the corpse to it. And it found that among the many corpses, there was a corpse of a heavenly Deo immortal who was extremely well preserved and gifted. This level of corpse has a special genetic bloodline. As long as it is swallowed, it can cause its life to transform, and can be rapidly improved. Well, mine, all mine. The Lord of the Netherworld roared excitedly. Since the weakness of its birth, every time it swallowed, it would compete with its compatriots, so it never hesitated about food. Even if no one robbed it, it would still quickly take it for itself. It roared joyfully and quickly flew towards the corpse in the center of the fairy island. Whoosh! A layer of hazy formation was activated at this moment. When the formation was activated, there was only a layer of hazy white light at first, but when this layer of hazy white light appeared, the excited Netherlord was shocked. His blood-red eyes instantly regained clarity. This formation? Rumble. White light exploded around the Netherlord, and the power generated by the explosion suddenly erupted, forming a dazzling white light ball that covered the whole body of the Netherlord. The shock wave quickly swept in all directions, and the earth undulated like waves. The fairy island was broken, and the waves were surging. At this moment, in the palace of the fairy island, a figure quickly shot out and quickly turned into a stream of light 100 meters away from the palace. It was amazingly fast. That's the Holy Lord. All the immortal cultivators who saw this scene held their breath. Amid the exclamation, Sudong, covered with dark red battle clothes, held a tooth-breaking knife in his hand, and slashed at the Netherlord who was wrapped in the formation. Do it. Entangle it. Kill. At the same time, the strong men who had been waiting in the palace for a long time came out in an instant, driving magic weapons and Taoism, and bombarded the Netherlord together. Kill. Sudong's eyes were extremely cold, and he immediately activated the blood flame power of the inner world and the 8th level of wind mystery. With a knife swing, the blood-colored knife light seemed to form a dazzling blood moon in the sky. The blood moon was across the sky. Heavenly punishment. This moment seemed to be frozen. The forearms of the Netherlord stretched out the white light ball, and then its head collided with the blood-colored knife light at an astonishing speed, and within the range of 4 feet before the collision. Power burst out and tore. The rules of the heavenly way were disordered, and the world was shattered at this moment. Cracks appeared one after another. Huge cracks were like hideous wounds all over the heaven and earth barrier, shattering the void. The violent sword light tore through the Forzang Heavenly Deo rule avoidance area, and the power contained in the blood-colored sword light completely exploded on the head of the Netherlord. At the same time, there were also many attacking Deo methods. The various Deo methods gathered into a torrent of Deo methods, which washed over the body of the Netherlord without mercy. The most important thing was the white light that gathered again, and covered a wider range this time. In front of this formation and attack that was many times more powerful than before, the Netherlord also retreated quickly like a conditioned reflex. It realized the danger. This formation is the 10 Directions Extinction formation in the void. Is this sword light close to the power of the void god? 10 Directions Extinction, that is the real destruction of everything. Within 10,000 miles, the 5th level heavenly Deo immortals and the void god are all extinct. And how could there be such a terrible strong man in this world? The sword light stimulated the power of the void god. It retreated violently, but the sword light had already exploded on the top of his head. A knife that was strong enough to shatter the void burst out on its head. The sharp knife light slashed into its blood-red eye corners. In an instant, a terrible gap appeared on its ferocious head. Its blood-red eyeball was split in two. Blood was flowing in the wound. Only the muscles in the head could be seen repairing quickly. Raw. This book was recently updated in #at. Update. The stone ghost screamed in pain. It was actually injured. I used all my strength to slash it, but it only hurt it. Sudang's body trembled, enduring the backlash of power. Under the dark red battlesuit, his face was as pale as paper. We can only rely on the 10 Directions Extinction formation. Stop it. Don't let it escape. Many strong men rushed forward. Seeing that the situation was not good, the Lord of the Netherworld had already turned around and fled quickly. The 10 Directions Extinction formation? Even in my prime, I may not be able to withstand it. Go, go. The Lord of the Netherworld panicked. This was the 10 Directions Extinction formation, which could really kill it. Boom boom boom. Endless white light burst out. Regardless of friend or foe, it blocked many strong men and the Lord of the Netherworld. Want to leave? You can't leave. Sudang's eyes were full of madness behind his dark red battlesuit. The heavenly Deo rules retreated within 3 feet around him, and with the number 2 key battlesuit, he could hold on for a long time. But other strong men died after holding on for a moment. They died and used their bodies to block the way of the Lord of the Netherworld, especially the Azure Sea Demon King, whose body was a deep sea giant squid. Before dying, he entangled the Lord of the Netherworld with his demon body, and the Lord of the Netherworld could not break it for a while. Stop him. For my clan, it's worth dying. Kill. Many strong men were fearless and killed. At this moment, no one retreated. No one was afraid of death. The body of the immortal venerable was swept by the white light and shattered, and the Yuanying held a command talisman, driving the starlight in the sky, and bombarded the Lord of the Netherworld. Sudang also drove the heavenly punishment again and rushed over. Prince Lee, start the second plan. Suddenly, the immortal venerable shouted. The Buddhist monk also shouted. Second plan. Start the backup plan. The demons and humans shouted at the same time. Sudang was confused. What second plan? The surrounding space suddenly solidified, and then a huge Bagua formation pattern gathered at Sudang's feet. Sudang's face changed instantly. Behind him, Lord Lee held a disc in his hand. He looked at Sudang with a resolute smile on his face. Chapter 270 The Last Hope. No. Sudang's face changed. Holy Lord, this is the plan we all discussed together. We can die, but you have to survive. If this beast doesn't die, you are the last hope. Prime Minister Lee activated the formation. Holy Lord, survive. You are the last hope. The immortal Lord showed a resolute smile, and the Buddhist monk smiled and looked over. A demon king even grinned at Sudang. There was no disagreement, no reluctance. Sudong was the last hope. They could die, but Sudong couldn't. Sudong was alive, and he was the last hope of this world. At this moment, Sudong was stunned. His heart was trembling. The last hope. What a familiar scene. On the Black Wind Mountain, in the dark monster's lair, one by one, strong men and gentle and kind ladies died, just to let him escape, to let him survive, and use their lives, to stop the monsters chasing him. Sudong, survive. You are the only hope. Hope. Just for a hope. They are willing to die and sacrifice, just for a hope. Boom. Sudong's figure disappeared in an instant. Disappeared in the white light. Li Xiangai's attainments in the formation are so high that Feng Yulan's parasitic life said it was rare, and now he is absolutely the best in the world. With the cooperation of Xianzhen and others, this is the second plan. It is also their backup. Kill. Kill. Kill this beast. Li Xiangai controlled the formation to entangle. His strength was the weakest. He only used this formation, and then he was swept by the white light of the 10 directions extinction formation. Instantly shattered, the nascent soul didn't have time to come out, and he died. But before he died, he had a smile on his face. Before the disaster, how many people could die as generously as them? Madmen. The lives of this world are all a bunch of crazy people. Madmen who don't care about their lives. The Lord of the Netherworld was anxious, and his blood-red eyes were full of coldness, and there was extreme anger in the coldness. A bunch of ants. Food. Want to die with me? Die, beast. Only a hideous head was left of a demon king. He bit the tail of the Netherlord frantically, and held it tightly. If we die, you will die too. This is our world. The shouts echoed between heaven and earth, resounding through the sky. I won't die. I won't die. The Netherlord roared. Thousands of miles away, Sudong's figure suddenly appeared above the surging ocean. He stopped above the ocean, staring at the white light in front of him. Not only him, at this moment, the Jin Dynasty, the strong men of various tribes, the disciples of various sects, etc. all look nervously at the huge white light rising from the fairy island. This white light looks so beautiful and dazzling, but it is the 10 directions extinction array. Can he kill the void god of the Stone Ghost clan? Success, the world will be spared from catastrophe. Failure, then the entire world will fall into an absolute nightmare, immersed in darkness, and never see the light of day. In front of a palace in the Jin Dynasty, Mengxi Niang was holding a brocade bag tightly in her hand, staring at a picture projected by a glazed tower in front of her. When she saw Sudong leave, she breathed a sigh of relief. It will succeed. That beast will definitely die. This is a 10 directions extinction array. The cold voice in the glazed tower said. Yes, it will succeed. It will succeed. Mengxi Niang nodded, but her breathing was completely stagnant due to nervousness. The same. In the 10 directions pavilion of the Jin Dynasty, the ancestor of the Jin Dynasty, the Emperor of Jin, stared at the white light on the scroll in front of him. The white light enveloped the entire Buddhist fairy island, and the distance was still spreading. The Lord of the Netherworld was in it. The Lord of the Netherworld was struggling in it. Must die, die. The ancestor of the Jin Dynasty muttered silently. His expression seemed very calm, but beads of sweat oozed from his forehead, and his whole body trembled slightly. Just now, the life talisman of Prime Minister Li had been broken. They were all sad, but now was not the time to mourn. That beast must die. At this moment, whether they were righteous or evil, whether they were human or demon, they were all shouting and praying in their hearts, hoping that the Lord of the Netherworld would die. The 10 direction extinction array has been activated. It has completely erupted. That beast didn't escape. At this moment, Sudong, who was floating above the ocean, was so nervous that he didn't even dare to breathe. When he saw that the white light covered thousands of miles and the Lord of the Netherworld didn't escape, he couldn't help but tremble. It succeeded. You succeeded. It will die. It will definitely die. It's all your credit. Sudong felt oppressed in his heart. He wanted to rush forward again. In front of him were the smiles of the dead strong men. Shocking. But, at this moment, time seemed to freeze. The 10 direction extinction array instantly erupted with all its power, covering the sea, sky, and earth within thousands of miles. Covering the sky and the sun, it completely erupted. Their most powerful trump card, the 10 direction extinction. At this moment, no sound came out. Sudang stared at it intently, and the world in front of him instantly turned into a white world. All those who watched this scene through monitoring methods saw the screen in front of them fall into darkness instantly. But no matter where they were on the mainland, or in the sea, they all saw the dazzling white light that suddenly rose in the night sky. It was as if a sun suddenly rose in the night sky. The white sun was extremely dazzling. This white light covered thousands of miles. Within thousands of miles, all living things were extinct. All spiritual energy was extinct, and the world was extinct. At this moment, Sudang looked at the scene in front of him. His body was like an ant in front of such power, like a duckweed in the vast ocean. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. Involuntarily, drifting with the flow. The terrifying power soared into the sky, tearing the earth, tearing the ocean, and everything that stood in front of it was torn apart. Unstoppable. In the sea water was evaporated in an instant, and countless lives died in an instant. Blood-colored air currents floated around Sudang, and the blood-colored air currents enveloped the surrounding area of 80 feet. Within the range of 80 feet, the blood was mighty. Is that beast dead? He stared at the front. Everyone was waiting for the power to dissipate, and the scroll to recover. They were all waiting for the result, whether the terrible beast was dead or not. Above the original Buddhist fairy island, when the white light dissipated, a dark light suddenly shot out from it. The dark light was so fast that no one could see it clearly, but Sudang saw clearly that it was a small, hideous black lizard head. The head was covered with a strange helmet, and the helmet was covered with strange silver-white patterns. Even the eyes of the lizard head had been bloody. The body parts were completely gone. Only a head with black smoke was left. But it was still alive. Damn beast. Sudang roared, and his figure instantly turned into a bloody light and chased out. At this moment, the monitoring of the Taoism between heaven and earth returned to normal. Everyone saw this scene. Sudang, wearing a dark red battlesuit, was quickly chasing the head with black smoke. The head was even faster, and instantly plunged into a sea thousands of miles away, disappearing in an instant. Sudang also stopped. His face was cold. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. It's still alive. That beast is still alive. Someone fainted with anger. This didn't kill the void god of the Stone Ghost clan. It shouldn't be. It's impossible. Meng Si Nyang's face changed color. It's that helmet. It should be the helmet of the witch god. Damn, how can a lowly stone ghost have the helmet of the witch god? A cold voice came from the glazed tower. Sudang was even more unwilling, looking at the magnificent sea. His speed would also drop sharply after entering the ocean, and he couldn't catch up. The Lord of the Netherworld is still alive. It's actually still alive. If it's alive, what are those dead strong men? I won't let you die in vain. Absolutely not. Sudang looked at the sea below and roared. Similarly, countless people who saw this scene, some were desperate, but some still clenched their palms. Their eyes were all fixed on the figure of the young man on the sea. The Holy Lord is still alive. We still have hope. Yes, the Holy Lord is the last hope. No matter how unwilling or reluctant he was, the void god of the Stone Ghost clan was not dead. He had to kill that beast. Sudang was the last hope. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271, Great Heaven Seal. Sudang gritted his teeth and looked at the endless pitch black sea under the night sky. His eyes were bloodshot and red, and the power around him was constantly surging and exploding. His fists were clenched and hissed. Sudang, if it didn't have the helmet of the witch god, it would have been blown to death by the explosion of the 10 Directions extinction formation. Feng Lao Rongzi sent a message to Sudang from a long distance. The helmet of the witch god is the equipment of the witch god clan, the real top clan in the void. They have noble and powerful bloodlines, and are better at refining witch god weapons and magic weapons. This little stone ghost void god actually has the helmet of the witch god. Feng Lao Rongzi sighed. Although the stone ghosts are not of noble blood, their life core is in that head. As long as the head is not destroyed, they will not die. The stone ghosts were originally a scum clan in the void, but their vitality was extremely strong. Their weakness was in the core of their heads. Now they have the protection of the witch god's helmet, and their life-saving ability has instantly increased by more than 100 times. It must have been seriously injured by the attack just now. We must attack it as soon as possible. There is a saying that goes, kill it while it is sick. If it hides, no one will be its opponent after it recovers. Feng Lao, do you have any way to find its location? Su Donglian telepathically transmitted his voice. In the immortal cave, Feng Lao Rangxi was stunned for a moment, feeling Su Dong's strong killing intent. Su Dong, calm down first and plan well. Anxiety will only lead to failure. Feng Lao Rangxi said. She understood how painful Su Dong was at this moment. Seeing his relatives and friends die, he felt the same pain. There are countless people suffering in this world now, but anxiety can't solve the problem. Tell me if there is any way. Su Dong said in a low voice. Yes, as long as you get the Great Heaven Suppressing Seal of Yijin Fairy Island. The Great Heaven Suppressing Seal can easily cover the entire sea area of your world, and then you can easily find it. Feng Lao Rangxi said. Su Dong's eyes suddenly lit up. Yes, there is also the Great Heaven Seal. But then he hesitated again. How can I find the Great Heaven Seal from Yijin Fairy Island? The Great Heaven Seal guards the Fairy Island all the time. How can he find it? So you have to take me with you. Feng Lao Rangxi transmitted the message. Su Dong was startled. He did not take Feng Lao Rangxi with him before, because he was afraid that the latter would be in danger. After all, Feng Lao Rangxi was just a seed. After a hesitation, Su Dong nodded slightly. After all, Yijin Fairy Island is the cave of Feng Lao family. Okay, I will go back to pick you up. Su Dong immediately turned into a stream of light and turned to fly back to the interior of Jin Dynasty. On the way back, he received a message from the ancestor of Jin Dynasty. Holy Lord, are you sure you can kill that beast? The ancestor of Jin Dynasty gritted his teeth and wished he could go up, but he understood that if he went up, it would just be a snack for the stone ghost void god. This is what he asked. He also asked on behalf of countless people. Yes. Su Dong responded immediately, very firmly. The ancestor of Jin Dynasty over there got the response and felt much better. The Holy Lord is their last hope now. After cutting off the communication, Su Dong quickly returned to the Jin Dynasty and met his adoptive father Yangan and Zheng Dashu, telling them to stay in the immortal cave at all times and not to go out, and at the same time, take Feng Lao Rangxi away. He flew high into the sky, repelling the rules of the heavenly way around him, and his speed reached the limit of the world, turning into an unclear lightning and rushing towards Yijin Immortal Island. In less than half an hour, Su Dong flew above Yijin Immortal Island, which was surrounded by golden mist and exuded a hazy glow. In the past, Yijin Immortal Island was surrounded by golden mist, and there was a huge maze in the golden mist. As long as the mist did not dissipate, the immortals of the heavenly Dao did not dare to go in and take risks. I have the token of Yijin Immortal Island. With this token, there is no need to worry about the formation of Yijin Immortal Island. Su Dong did not stop in the air at all. With a flip of his hand, a golden arrow appeared in his hand. Looking at the vast Yijin Immortal Island, if the stone ghost is not dead, it will definitely recover its strength quickly. It is the three heavens void god. If it recovers a little, I will not be its opponent. The only hope is to kill it while it is seriously injured and dying. The only hope. Go down. Su Dong's eyes were as cold as a knife. Surrounded by terrifying power, with a sharp wave of air, he rushed directly into the misty golden island under the night sky. The misty fog automatically dispersed when it met Su Dong, without any obstruction. Su Dong, my mother's cave palace has a total of 6. And the Great Heaven Seal is in one of these 6 places, Feng Lao Rangxi telepathically transmitted. At the same time, he marked the 6 palaces to Su Dong. Understood. With Feng Lao Rangxi's navigation, this Yijin Immortal Island is like his own home to him. But you still have to be careful. My mother's temperament has changed drastically. She will definitely leave many traps and obstacles. Who knows, even the heavenly Dao Immortal may fall. Feng Lao Rangxi reminded. Her mother has been dead since Feng Lao died. His personality became perverse and murderous, wishing to take countless lives to bury himself. He even didn't see his daughter until his death, and didn't know Feng Lao Rangzi was still alive. Sudong nodded slightly, and he turned into a stream of light and quickly rushed into the nearest palace. The palace was magnificent, and had 3 side halls. As soon as Sudong entered the palace with a command arrow in his hand, a golden light emerged from the darkness. A warrior in armor with golden light slashed at Sudong with a knife. Sudong rushed in as a stream of light. The blood-colored airflow enveloped the area within 80 feet. The golden armor figure was instantly wiped out and turned into scattered armor fragments scattered all over the ground. This book was recently updated in update. Sudong glanced at the armor fragments. The puppet at the Mahayana level was completely vulnerable in front of him. He quickly rushed into the palace, searching the 3 side halls. There are some treasures in the 3 side halls, but more of them are hidden murderous intentions, such as poison needles, poison gas, puppets hidden in the dark, and the means are so insidious and vicious that, if an ordinary Mahayana realm enters here, it is really hard to say whether he can get out alive. There is no treasure in this palace. Go to the next one. In less than a moment, Sudong flew out of this palace and flew to the next palace. Feng Lao, based on your understanding, which palace does your mother love the most? Sudong also asked. If it was before, I could still guess what my mother was thinking, but later, my mother's temperament became unpredictable, Feng Lao Rangzi said, and I know that my mother attaches the most importance to these palaces. Every time my father came back, he met my mother in these palaces. Oh. Sudong was speechless. The death of Feng Lao was a huge blow to Mrs. Feng Lao, and her style of doing things became unpredictable. Sudong, that palace seems to be the place where my mother saw her last time. Feng Lao Rangzi said. Sudong immediately slowed down and looked at the palace next to him. Among the 6 palaces, this one was the least noticeable, and there wasn't even any light. Sudong flew in. Bang! He was surrounded by a blood-colored airflow of 80 feet. It seemed as if he had hit something invisibly, but his body didn't even pause, and he flew in directly. When one's strength reaches a certain level, some small tricks and sneak attacks are child's play in front of him. Is that the statue of Feng Lao? Sudong had just flown into the palace. The palace didn't look big from the outside, but the ground inside extended directly for about 500 meters. 500 meters in front, stood a tall golden statue with a stern face, emitting a faint pressure. Sudong had seen the portrait of Feng Lao, so he recognized it at a glance. However, Sudong could feel that the statue in front of him lacked a bit of the spiritual power on the scroll. He walked in. The statue of my father. Ah, Sudong, you've come to the right place. You've come to the right place. Look at the throne behind my father. Sudong took a look and his eyes lit up. Above the throne, there was a huge seal floating with rich golden light. The seal was floating there, emitting an ancient and heavy aura of oppression. The Great Heaven Suppressing Seal. Chapter 272 Statue. Looking at the Great Heaven Suppressing Seal, at this moment, even though Sudong was determined, he could not suppress his excitement. There is hope. There is hope to find that beast. Sudong suppressed the joy in his heart. He walked towards the throne. Just as he took a step, the talisman on his waist suddenly vibrated, and Sudong took out the talisman. It was the message from the Jin Dynasty ancestor. Holy Lord, something bad is going to happen. The voice of the Jin Dynasty ancestor came, and Sudong's heart tightened immediately. That beast appeared. If it appeared, it would be even better. It's not that beast, it's Luaksha sect. Just now, many monsters and immortal cultivators suddenly appeared in Luaksha sect. These immortal cultivators are wantonly capturing lives and claiming to be offering sacrifices to the Lord of the Netherworld. They said they were chosen by the Lord of the Netherworld and will never die. As long as they are loyal to the Lord of the Netherworld, they can even get many rewards. What? Sudong's face changed drastically. The Lord of the Netherworld was the beast of the Stone Ghost clan. He chose it because he thought it tasted good and wanted to give birth to offspring for him and continue to devour it generation after generation. These stupid people actually promoted it? Really stupid. In the face of death, not everyone can be fearless. There are always people who think that it is better to live than to die. Ha. If the stone ghost does not die, one day they will understand what despair is. Feng Lao Rungs, he sneered. Is there anyone who continues to seek refuge with those people? We have to stop them. Now is the weakest time for the beast. It urgently needs food to recover. It dares not come out to find food, so it mobilizes these minions. Sudong said through the communication. His face was ugly. Everyone has the right to pursue life, and everyone wants to live. But if you go to capture life for the Stone Ghost clan, you are their enemy. Enemies must die. Well, the 9 ancestors, Dao sect, and Buddhist disciples have already taken action. Miss Meng is so powerful that she actually has the strength of a half-step heavenly Dao immortal. The Jin Dynasty ancestor communicated. Sudong was stunned. Sinayang? When did Sinayang have the strength of a half-step heavenly Dao immortal? From the transformation of spirit to a half-step heavenly Dao immortal? Even if the speed of cultivation of the Holy Heart was doubled, it shouldn't be so fast. This thought flashed through his mind, but now is not the time to pursue these things. After he warned her to be careful, he cut off the communication. His face was still extremely ugly. Is there anyone willing to help that beast? Sudong felt absurd, but he also understood in his heart. These people really want to live, even if they have to bow down and become tools for producing food. They may still have a glimmer of hope, hoping that the Stone Ghost may reward them generously. After all, they also saw how powerful the Stone Ghost was. Since ancient times, the weak have followed the strong and depended on the strong. That is natural. Sudong ignored the chaos in the outside world. He only thought that the Jin Dynasty would not be in chaos for the time being because of the ancestors of the Jin Dynasty. He couldn't care what others did. He continued to walk forward. Getting the Great Heaven Suppressing Seal was the top priority. In the White Hall, Sudong strode towards the throne in the front. He had just walked to the center of the hall. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, white lights lit up and suddenly appeared out of thin air, penetrating the entire palace passage. As if they could sense Sudong, these white lights were dense and shot directly at Sudong. The speed of the white light even exceeded the speed limit of heaven and earth. Even Sudong had no time to dodge. He could only rely on the mystery level and spiritual realm to resist. The 80-foot blood-colored airflow could not block it at all, and was instantly penetrated. The 4-foot spiritual level realm even pressed open the rules of heaven, but could only offset part of the penetrating force of the white light. Boom. The white light bombarded the dark red battlesuit on Sudong's body. The dark red battlesuit was weakened layer by layer, but the terrible force still penetrated Sudong through the battlesuit. At the same time, more than 100 white lights hit Sudong. In the palace, Sudong's figure was instantly bombarded and flew backwards. After landing several times, the hard jade floor was rubbed with hideous cracks, and finally hit the wall of the hall with a bang, and Sudong's figure stopped. What a terrible white light. This white light has a part of the power of the 10 directions extinction array. Sudong was amazed. He stroked his chest with his palm to relieve his dull breathing. That's called the extinction light. Ordinary immortals of the heavenly Dao can't withstand it, but you can withstand it. Your magic weapon and battlesuit are really extraordinary. Feng Lao Rungs, he said. She actually felt guilty in her heart. Her mother actually set up such a sinister mechanism. Fortunately, Sudong was lucky, but she was not wrong. A good protective magic weapon is invaluable in the void. For example, the witch god helmet of the Lord of the Netherworld can withstand the 10 directions extinction array. What kind of defense is that? The magic weapons and weapons of the witch god are famous in the void. Sudong stood up, his dark red battlesuit covered his whole body, and a long sword appeared in his hand, and the long sword was swung out instantly. Heavenly punishment. A blood red blade light instantly shot out, and the dazzling blade light like a blood moon crossed the entire palace and headed straight for the throne in front. Whoosh. Sudong suddenly flew over, his body turned into a blood red flame, and flew forward along the blade light. The blade light became his best protection. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. This book was recently updated on #@. Update. The dense white light appeared again, and instantly shot at the blood red blade light in front of Sudong. At the moment when the blade light collided with the white light, Sudong's broken tooth knife turned into a knife flower again, and swung it out. A bright knife river emerged and condensed into a huge knife light, which immediately blocked him in front of him. The knife technique, a stroke of genius. A large amount of white light flew around, but none of it could shoot at Sudang. At this moment, Sudang desperately stimulated all his true energy, and even urged the inner world. The inner world sent out waves of power fluctuations, allowing him to keep moving forward. Charge, charge, charge. Whoosh. Sudang rushed past the Feng Laoyu statue, flew directly to the top of the throne, and grabbed the seal that was shining with golden light. But the Taoist confinement madly counterattacked Sudang. Break it for me. Sudang growled. How powerful can a magic weapon without anyone controlling it be? Sudang's palm burst out with waves of true energy, and the blood flame instantly enveloped the seal. When Sudang grabbed the seal of heaven, the Feng Laoyu statue in the center of the magnificent palace instantly lit up a layer of golden light. I saw that its originally hard and motionless body suddenly turned around, and a golden light was lit in the eyes. The golden light flashed. Inside the statue, a terrible dormant energy began to operate rapidly. At the same time, the windows of the entire palace were instantly closed. The statue's eyes wrapped in golden light looked at Sudang, who was holding the seal of heaven. Sudang also noticed all this, and was even more surprised to see that the Feng Laoyu statue was alive. He retreated and fled. Feng Lao, this statue. Sudang transmitted his voice, but Feng Lao Rongzi was already stunned. Father. This breath is too similar. Too similar. Feng Lao Rongzi ignored him. Sudang was speechless. He felt that this statue was too scary. He quickly flew towards the direction of the palace gate. At this moment, the statue waved its palm. Sudang saw the palm clearly at a glance, not because the palm was too slow, but because it was too big, easily occupying his entire cheek vision. Boom. At the critical moment, Sudang moved his body and dodged the attack from the palm, but even so, his dark red battle suit was directly rubbed, and a crack appeared on the side of his face. The crack recovered in the blink of an eye, but it terrified Sudang. Just a rub, and the number 2 key battle suit had a crack? What if it was hit hard? Sudang was instantly terrified. Chapter 273, No Daylight. Go. Sudang did not dare to stay, and followed the knife. He swung the long knife in his hand, and turned it into a bloodlight. At the moment, when the statue waved his palm again, the blood-colored knife light cut through the space, and the power of 80% of the wind and the power close to the complete power of the heaven gathered and entangled on the blade of the knife light. Boom. The blood-colored knife light, with its sharp blade light and the sound of tearing the air, instantly hit the gate of the palace. This is a knife close to the level of the void god. The mystery of 80% of the wind, plus the sharpness of the broken tooth knife. At the same time, Sudang also urged the inner world to increase. Even the void god of the Stone Ghost clan would be injured after such a blow. Bang, but the palace gate only trembled, making a muffled sound, and then quickly returned to calm. At this time, the terrifying attack of the statue behind him arrived. Boom. A palm print rushed to Sudang like thunder and lightning, and the knife light in Sudang's hand lit up to block it. But he didn't have time to swing it out. So fast. Sudang was secretly shocked. This is not the limit speed of heaven and earth. This has long exceeded the limit speed of heaven and earth. At the same time, a palace suddenly appeared in front of him. The palace was in a miniature shape and instantly blocked Sudang's way. Boom. The statue slapped the palace. The surface of the palace reflected dark golden ripples, and dark golden ripples emerged layer by layer. The bombardment force was transmitted to Sudang behind him through the palace. Sudang's whole body shook, his face turned pale, and under the dark red battle suit, he couldn't help but spit out blood from the corner of his mouth. Too terrible. The attack of this statue is too terrible. The horror is beyond imagination. Feng Lao, what is this statue? Sudang telepathically transmitted. He had no means to resist this statue. He could only hide behind the void temple. Fortunately, although the palace he was in trapped him, the space limit could not let the terrible statue bypass him. The attack was so terrible that it could even hurt himself through the void temple. In Sudang's estimation, this statue has the level of a 5th level heavenly Deo immortal, or a 5th level void god. Facing such a being, he had no power to fight back, and he couldn't even fight. Feng Lao. Sudang shouted in his heart. Yes, it was an idea of my father. Feng Lao Rongzi finally came back to his senses from his daze. Your father's idea? Sudang's scalp tingled. Feng Lao was such a powerful person. Even in the void he was a master. This statue was just an idea of Feng Lao. How terrifying was it? Who can withstand this? Sudong was speechless. Sudong was startled, and a seed in his chest suddenly flew out and turned into the figure of Feng Lao Rongzi out of thin air. She landed in front of the statue and spoke a language that Sudong couldn't understand. Although he didn't understand, Sudong saw Rongzi's expression at the entrance of the cave was extremely sad, and the statue also became motionless and stood there. Sudong turned his head and saw that the originally closed door of the palace opened again, and the sunlight shone in. Sudong, we have been recognized by our father's thoughts. Rongzhi at the entrance of the cave took a last look at the statue, bowed slightly, and quickly flew back. Recognition? Sudong was a little surprised. This statue contains a thought of my father. It was left by my father to guard the cave and protect my mother. It has thoughts and will not attack relatives. Feng Lao Rongzhi said, so when the statue saw her, all attacks stopped. This statue contains a little bit of Feng Lao's thoughts. Even if it is just a little bit, it is enough to kill Sudong. Sudong's eyes lit up. If he could take this statue away, wouldn't it be easy to kill the stone ghost void god? This statue can only be guarded in the immortal mansion, and can be used to protect the safety of the immortal mansion. Even the 8 heavenly Dao immortal can be wiped out, but it cannot leave the immortal mansion. As long as it does not enter the immortal mansion and harm the immortal mansion, this statue will not take the initiative to attack. Feng Lao Rongzhi said. Sudong took a deep breath. Obviously, this statue is mainly for protection. After a moment, Sudong soared into the sky. His figure flew high in the sky, and he looked down at the huge fairy island below, which was plunged into darkness and no longer covered by golden mist. Without the great heaven suppressing seal, Yijin Fairy Island would no longer have the golden mist barrier. Feng Lao, thank you. Sudong sincerely sent a telepathic message to Feng Lao Rongzi. The seed that Feng Lao Rongzi turned into lay quietly in Sudong's chest. Hearing Sudong's telepathic message, she couldn't help but smile. You're welcome. Sudong, I envy you for having the opportunity to save your relatives and friends, but I still hope you can understand that no matter what time, you must ensure that you stay alive, and there is hope only if you stay alive. Also, when you go to find the beast of the Stone Ghost clan, you must take me with you. Sudong looked at the endless sea surface. The void god of the Stone Ghost clan was hiding somewhere on the seabed. I only have one chance. If I can't kill the Stone Ghost this time, I will never have another chance in the future. Sudong said secretly. With the cunning of the Stone Ghost, he will never let him find it a second time. As long as he is dragged by it until his strength recovers, it will be a disaster for this world. Sudong, don't worry. Although the Stone Ghost did not die, after being bombarded by the 10 Directions extinction array, he is now dying. The helmet of the witch god should also be seriously damaged. It is not so easy to recover. Feng Lao Rongzi said. Well, I know. Whoosh. Sudong turned into lightning and flew towards the dark sky. He was still worried about the Jin Dynasty, his adoptive father, and Si Niang. Although the stone ghost void god had hidden before, the outside world was in chaos. And what was the hiding stone ghost void god doing at this moment? Sudong was full of uneasiness and anxiety. He quickly rushed to the territory of the Jin Dynasty. This book was recently updated in Update. After the Jin Dynasty unified the land, its territory was vast. At this time, the county city in the original territory of the Wei Dynasty was completely in a state of madness, with painful roars and screams everywhere. Some county towns and even the entire city were surrounded by flames, and the flames spread across the sky. It was as if the entire county town was going to be destroyed. At the beginning, the Wei Dynasty was a court ruled by evil cultivators, and later it was returned to the Jin Dynasty. However, the number of evil cultivators was the largest. At this moment, the world was in danger, but they went crazy. They were going to die anyway, so they might as well go crazy. Some immortal cultivators killed. Some immortal cultivators enjoyed themselves wantonly. A stream of light passed through the night sky. The stream of light turned into a huge glazed pagoda, and the glazed pagoda shone with azure blue light, which spread throughout the night sky, and then quickly drilled into the county town below. Die. A handsome young man who was torturing many maids to go crazy in a luxurious hall was instantly pierced through the head by a stream of light, and his eyes were still full of madness before he died. This is a disaster, but also an opportunity. I must seize the opportunity. This is my opportunity. An evil cultivator in a black robe, holding an exquisite dagger emitting evil light, killed in the night sky. On weekdays, the Jin Dynasty is under strict supervision, and these evil cultivators are restrained. Now is the best time to kill people and seize treasures. But a stream of blue light fell. No, why are you only killing me? I don't want to die. I don't want to die. He screamed in fear and used Taoism to escape, but he was still easily pierced by the stream of light and died instantly. In the dark night, a flash of lightning quickly broke through the air and flew. Sudong, wearing a dark red battlesuit, landed in the imperial capital of the Jin Dynasty. At a glance, he saw the ancestors of the Jin Dynasty who were already waiting. The king of Muzhou, Lan Yateo dressed in military uniforms, and the emperor of Jin with a heavy face. There are also many 10 direction pavilion true lords, and even many overseas immortals. How is it? Sudong asked. Some small fish and shrimps can't make waves. The key is that the stone ghost void god, the ancestor of the Jin Dynasty, looked anxious and helpless. Sudong took a deep breath and looked at the world today through the town Cheyenne. The chaos everywhere made him tremble in his heart. He also hated. The most terrifying thing in this world is not foreign enemies, but human hearts. As long as the stone ghost doesn't die, there will never be light in this world. Sudong's eyes turned cold. Chapter 274, the final moment. Whoosh. Sudong's eyes turned cold. He instantly soared into the sky, holding a big seal in his hand. This big seal was the great heaven suppressing seal, which could be activated by true essence. In Feng Lao Rang's his words, it was more than enough to cover the entire small world. But the big seal in Sudong's hand instantly spread out a layer of golden light, which spread out like a golden sun, emitting 1,000-foot brilliance, covering the territory, covering the sky, and spreading to the endless ocean. Countless people saw this scene, saw the figure of the young man flying in the night sky, holding the big seal high in his hand, and the big seal emitting endless brilliance. That is the Holy Lord, our last hope. Looking up, worshipping, even the desperate cultivators saw the golden light that penetrated the sky and illuminated the entire sky. That figure was their last reliance. Above the Wei dynasty, Mengxi Niang had a glazed tower floating in front of her, but her eyes were looking at the golden light spreading above. She also saw the extremely dazzling figure, the Great Heaven Seal. How could he get the Great Heaven Seal? In the glazed tower, the always cold woman was stunned. In the snow, she stared at the golden light that filled the sky. The Great Heaven Seal. How could it appear in Sudong's hands? The Great Heaven Seal. Mengxi Niang's slightly surprised voice sounded. The woman in the glazed tower was like a demon. Without a guide, how could he find the Great Heaven Seal? Even if he found it, he couldn't get it. Unless. Is it you? Is it you, Xia? Lena can't survive. Xia's master is that person. If that person takes action, Xia will definitely be able to survive. At this moment, the coldness in her eyes disappeared, replaced by a kind of warmth, a mother's radiance. Although she was only the parasitic life left by that lady, she had all the memories and emotions. Xia followed that Sudong. That Sudong can't die. He must not die. Her daughter is still alive, and being alive is the greatest hope. In the night sky, the golden light spread and covered the sky, awakening the world, and also spread to the sea. The originally dark and deep sea seemed to be coated with a layer of golden light at this moment, and the whole ocean turned into a golden ocean. In the depths of the endless ocean, the hideous stone ghost void god crawled here. In front of it were piles of deep sea fish corpses, as well as countless monsters and human corpses, which were constantly transmitted to him through a spell. As a scum tribe in the void, the stone ghost tribe would devour, as long as they were alive. Devouring can make them stronger, and can also allow them to recover quickly from the brink of death. Now, it is very angry. Although the cruelty and tyranny in the past were integrated into its bones, it has never been as angry as it is now. I almost died. The Lord of the Netherworld bit the head of a terrible monster and greedily sucked the bursting brain in it. In the past, it thought that it was a god in this world, an absolutely invincible existence, but it didn't expect that it almost died in the hands of this tiny life in the world. The 10 Directions Extinction Array. You dare to set up the 10 Directions Extinction Array. If I hadn't done that big deal and gained a lot of treasures, I would have capsized in the gutter this time. Thanks to the witch god's helmet, it survived. It was very angry. It wanted to vent its anger. But now is not the time. There is a strong man in the outside world, although not as powerful as the void god, but his strength is extremely terrifying. Can hurt it. It must first recover its strength, and when it is strong enough, it will rush out and kill the strong man in one fell swoop. Then it will severely punish all the lives in this world. It wants to vent and devour. In its eyes, this world is a hunting ground, and countless lives are its prey. Tiny prey. Food, waiting for it to conquer. I won't let you succeed a second time. The Lord of the Netherworld devoured a large number of corpses, absorbing the spiritual energy, flesh, and genes in the corpses. It has been going on like this. Suddenly, it found that the color of the sea water around it had changed. From the original pitch black, it suddenly turned golden, shining brightly, reflecting the entire underwater world and its body. The ferocious torso had recovered, but the scales on the surface of the body were still growing slowly in the flesh. The forearms were waving casually, and the 2 blood-red eyes on the head were shining red. On top of its head, it was still wearing the helmet covered with silver veins. Not good. The forearms of the Netherlord were waving wildly, and the newly grown spiked tail swept violently. A huge reef on the seabed was directly blasted. It was seen looking up at the golden sea water, with violent madness in its blood-red eyes. Roar. It let out a terrible roar, and the roar made the sea water vibrate, forming a series of monstrous waves, as if announcing to Sudang that it was fearless, and provoking Sudang to come, if he wanted to kill it. At this moment, the great heaven seal reflected the entire sky, and the entire night sky turned golden, shocking every life in the world. When the golden light spread to the bottom of the sea, the figure of the Lord of the Underworld was directly reflected in the sky. The terrifying and ferocious roar, although it was so far away, still made everyone feel terrified. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. There. Without any hesitation, Sudang's figure shot out in an instant, turned into lightning, and quickly broke through the air, and flew to that sea area. At this moment, whether it was human or monster, young or old, everyone in the world saw the figure projected from the sky. In the sky, there were only 2 pictures. One was the Lord of the Underworld crawling on the bottom of the sea, devouring corpses crazily, and roaring constantly, and the other was the young man who turned into a flash of lightning, and quickly flew to that sea area. The Holy Lord is going to kill that beast. Jin Huang couldn't help but whispered. The King of Musou couldn't help but say in a low voice, the 10 Directions Extinction Formation couldn't kill that beast before. Can the Holy Lord kill that beast? They have seen the power of the Lord of the Underworld. Yes, I can. Lion Yateo was extremely firm and confident. Her eyes were even burning as she stared at the flash of lightning in the sky. The figure that she could never catch up with was fighting for their piece of heaven and earth. At this moment, countless lives were boiling with blood, whether they were monsters or humans. They couldn't help but roar. Holy Lord. That was their last hope. It was the last moment, and they had to fight to the death. At this moment, everyone held their breath. The 2 images in the sky overlapped. Sudang's figure flew over the golden ocean. Without any hesitation, the long sword in his hand had already slashed out angrily, like a sword that opened up the world. That sword. What a terrible sword. How come this picture didn't turn dark? Now that the Holy Lord is personally urging this golden light, he can naturally withstand it. In the golden projection, the sword light directly broke through the sea surface, set off a huge wave, and accurately fell on the body of the Lord of the Netherworld. Then they saw that the body of the Lord of the Netherworld was directly split in 2 by the sword light. At this moment, countless lives watching this projection were shocked. After the shock, they were excited. There was hope. There was hope to kill the Lord of the Netherworld. Chapter 275 The Heart of the Witch God. When the Lord of the Netherworld crawled on the bottom of the sea and saw the light spreading to the sea water and the entire world, he knew that he could no longer hide, so he directly provoked and roared. According to the information I got, the strong man named Sudang is the strongest in this world. You haven't become a void god, but you have practiced the mysteries of heaven and earth to near complete power. Your spiritual level is also about to reach the level of void god. In the void, both the mysteries of heaven and earth and the spiritual level are difficult to improve, but both of them are gathered on Sudang. No matter which one it is, it makes it feel unbelievable. How can such a terrible strong man be born in a small world with flaws? But it still has confidence. Although it is seriously injured, it is a triple void god after all. A lean camel is bigger than a horse. It has also fought with Sudang and the 10 Directions Extinction Formation, and believes that it can still kill it. But when Sudang chopped it down with a knife, not good. The knife light was extremely condensed and sharp. It penetrated the thick sea surface and split its newly repaired body into 2 halves again. The Lord of the Netherworld no longer had any luck. The outside world was excited, but the Lord of the Netherworld was panicking. Is this knife so powerful? Yes, it's not that he is strong, but that I'm too weak. Damn it, damn it. It's better to use that treasure. If you don't use it, you will really die here. The Lord of the Netherworld roared. He fell to such a state because he robbed the descendants of a major force behind a large world in the void. He robbed that person at all costs and almost lost everything. The harvest was also very rich. The helmet of the witch god was just one of them. Die. You almost die. A terrifying power suddenly surged. Half of the Lord of the Netherworld fled frantically on the seabed. While fleeing, its forearms flipped, and a huge dark red heart appeared in its hands. This heart exuded terrifying power, and even wrapped with silver white veins. Crack. The Lord of the Underworld swallowed the heart in one gulp. Broken. Its body rushed out of the sea. Above the golden sea, its body was emitting black air all over. The terrifying incomplete body rushed into the sky. Sudang was wearing a dark red battlesuit. The broken tooth knife in his hand was wrapped with blood-colored air currents. He swung the knife among the great heaven-suppressing seal. This great heaven-suppressing seal has increased my strength. The great heaven-suppressing seal is the first magic weapon of Yijin Fairy Island. He was about to swing the knife again, but suddenly, boom, a terrifying power burst out from the Lord of the Underworld. The power was so strong that it even produced a muffled sound of space breaking. The space was broken, the seawater poured back, and the sound of gas explosions hit all directions. Sudang swung the long knife in his hand directly. Bang! This time, the sharp sword light was directly dispersed by the black air. Endless black air was suspended in the air. A huge black arm stretched out from the black air. This black arm had smooth skin and 3 fingers. The blood-colored nails were particularly sharp. Along with the huge black arm that stretched out, a head also emerged from the black air. The head was silver white, and the ferocious huge lizard head was wearing a broken helmet, but there was a blood-colored horn on the top of the head, which was slender and sharp. A terrifying and evil aura instantly spread, filling the entire sky, and the black air was still pouring into the body of the Netherlord. The blood-colored eyes looked at Sudang, full of coldness and cruelty. Sudang and Feng Lao Rongxi in his chest saw the scene in front of them, and their faces changed. Does it have any means to become stronger? Sudang's heart was trembling. It was so seriously injured, and it still had a trump card. This was equivalent to sentencing them to death. It's the heart of the witch god. Oh my god, did this beast kill a child of a heavenly witch? Feng Lao Rongxi's heart trembled and transmitted the message. First it was the witch god's helmet, then the witch god's heart. The terrifying and evil might made Sudang and Feng Lao Rongxi tremble in their hearts. Don't talk about them. All the beings who saw this scene could not help but shed tears and look desperate. Why is that beast so hard to kill? God wants to kill us? It's over. Everything is over. They no longer had the excitement they had before, only despair. Sudang trembled as he looked at the huge Netherlord in front of him. That was the gap in the level of life, and the instinctive trembling fear of life. Sudang even wanted to cover his head. He felt the invisible fluctuations constantly penetrate into his mind, trying to affect his soul. Fortunately, his soul had been transformed, and the big demon soul in his mind was roaring wildly. He could resist this fluctuation, but he just felt uncomfortable. Sudang, leave quickly. This stone ghost has swallowed the heart of the witch god, and its strength will soar to the peak in a short time. While it has not been completely absorbed, leave quickly. Drive the void boat away. This world is over. It's over. Feng Lao Rongzi could not feel the pain, but hurriedly sent a message anxiously. It's over? These words hit Sudang's heart like a giant hammer. Ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha. The stone ghost that quickly grew stronger in the black air laughed like thunder, and the sea surface was stirred up by huge waves. I want to dominate this world, and kill this world. It roared with high spirits. In front of Sudang, figures flashed by. They were the tragic backs of the strong men in this world who sacrificed themselves to kill this beast. Li Xiangai, Xianzhen, the old monk of Buddhism. They paid everything, but still couldn't kill this beast. Didn't they die in vain? This book was recently updated in #at. Update. Go. Feng Lao Rongzi reminded anxiously. But Sudang rushed out directly. Don't let it get stronger. Sudang gritted his teeth. The breath of the stone ghost in front of him was too terrifying. If it got stronger, there would be no hope. Go. Sudang waved his right hand, and the blood-colored knife light was as dazzling as a blood moon. Heaven's punishment. Puff. The blood-red eyes of the Netherlord showed disdain. It stood there, absorbing the black air, while waving its huge arms. The huge three-fingered palm was down. It was extremely domineering, and easily slapped away Sudang's sword light. The palm kept slapping out directly, easily slapping Sudang away. The airwaves generated by the collision rushed in all directions like a substance, and Sudang's body fell downwards like a cannonball. The gap is too big. You want to compete with me, even if you are not a void god. The Netherlord roared. Sudang, who was falling rapidly, could only see the Netherlord in the distance roaring wildly. He was anxious. Mr. Li Xiangai and the others all died, leaving only me alone, and this is the result. They would rather die than let me live, just to watch this beast succeed. No. His body was falling rapidly, and with him fell the hope of countless lives in the world. We lost. We are no match at all. Our doomsday has come. Go and commit suicide. On the streets of the town, in the valleys, and by the lake, countless lives could not help but stop watching. They knew that Sudang had lost, and losing meant death. Some people were even ready to commit suicide. Wait. Look at the Holy Lord. The Holy Lord. The Holy Lord's body is emitting golden light. The Holy Lord has stood up. Countless voices suddenly became tense. On the screen, reflected in the sky, Sudang, who was originally falling rapidly, suddenly stopped, and endless golden light burst out from his body, and his aura rose sharply. In the blink of an eye, he almost reached the critical point of the void god level. He rushed up quickly, and collided with the Lord of the Netherworld. Even if I die, I will kill you. Sudang was wrapped in golden light, but his eyes were bloodshot. At this moment, in the world inside his Dantian, the mobile phone emitting golden light was entangled with golden runes. System upgrade completed. Performance mode optimization completed. Extreme mode. Start. Strength beyond the limit. Exploded. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.